Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Governing Board. We have board members participating in person in our offices here in Fresno, Bakersfield, and Modesto. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with a public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices such as your cell phone. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. After each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendee who has indicated that they wish to speak. May we have a roll call, please?
Okay, good morning. Mr. Chiesa.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Couch. Ms. Escutia Brayton.
Here.
Oh, Mr. Couch. Yes, sorry, Mr. Couch. I didn't see you. Ms. Escutia Brayton, Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mr. Mendez.
I'm here.
Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Here.
Mr. Pereira.
Here.
Mr. Reyna. Mr. Rickman.
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Here.
Dr. Sheriffs. Ms. Nguyen.
Here.
Ms. Schicklin.
Here.
Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Supervisor Robinson to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is approval of the consent calendar. This is for items 17 through 29. These items are routine in nature and are usually approved by a single vote. Prior to action by the board, the public will be given the opportunity to comment on any consent item. Do we have any public comment?
Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar in Modesto?
No public comments from Modesto on the consent calendar.
Thank you. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments on the consent calendar?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno would like to comment on the consent calendar items? Seeing none and none online.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion for
Second.
a second by Supervisor Mendez. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton. Aye. Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez.
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
I vote aye.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Schicklin.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you. Public comment. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the board's jurisdiction. It is requested that no comments be made during this period on items 8 through 11. The public may make comments on these agenda items during the time allowed for public comment on these items. Attention is called to the fact that the board is prohibited by law from taking action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Do we have anybody here that would like to speak for public comment?
In Fresno, we do have somebody
We do.
coming up to the podium.
Good morning, Manuel Cunha, Farmers League. I just have brought a document I think some of you folks received and probably read on the lithium batteries. Now, my main thing there is to alert the counties upon the rural communities, upon maybe awareness of where you keep your motor scooters, where are batteries and the offshoot of lithium type batteries that are being sold across the country. But the example in New York, 30 people died from lithium battery fires, 400 people injured, and they have formed a group to deal with the battery situation. And I think the one up there in up north that happened last couple months ago at the warehouse, lithium battery warehouse. And I just think we need to, in our counties, but especially even in my industry, where agriculture has a lot of dry fields. When you're talking about wheat and grain and those things, those type of devices and people throwing them on our farms to get rid of stuff. So it's just an awareness, but I think the state of California should have a real plan, and they don't. There's no plan at all. I went on site to look for protection of dropping off batteries on farms. There's nothing. In matter of fact, if a battery does appear on a farm, I was told that it will be classified as a toxic hazard, and then you'll have to file with the EPA to get it removed. So that's just insane. So, but just awareness and how maybe the Air District and other folks could put out information for rural communities. Don't put your motor scooter in your bedroom. You may just not have a bedroom. So again, thank you very much.
Are there any other members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Okay, Modesto, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment?
I have one member of the public, Please hold one moment.
Thank you.
Up to,
We're just waiting for an interpreter, Chair.
oh, okay.
Um,
Go to another region.
Okay, let me go to Bakersfield while we're waiting for that. Bakersfield, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment?
You can end now.
No comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. I do have one online comment. We'll go there.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Connie Young.
Hi, good
Connie.
morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm Connie Young, Fresno resident, retired registered nurse and volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby, also known as CCL. I hope you had a good break last month and you're feeling rested and refreshed to tackle the rest of the year. Today, I'll provide a quick roundup of some climate-related topics. Last month, more than 800 Citizens Climate Lobby volunteers went to Capitol Hill and held more than 400 meetings with congressional offices. They asked Congress to fund key clean energy programs, fix the implementation of clean energy tax credits, and advance smart permitting reform so that we can build more clean energy. They were well received and their meetings went well. As you're probably aware, the Trump administration is seeking dramatic cuts to climate and clean energy programs across a range of federal agencies. But Congress has the final say on those funding levels. So CCL volunteers have sent over 10,000 messages to their members of Congress, asking them to support robust funding for key energy and climate programs in NOAA, NASA, and the Department of Energy. With temperatures and CO2 concentration levels rising around the globe, devastating floods and droughts, and massive wildfires spewing toxic air pollution, this is no time to ignore climate science and clean energy. We CCL volunteers are also submitting comments to the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, about its recent proposal to rescind its 2009 endangerment finding, which forms the basis of all federal climate pollution regulation. Without the endangerment finding, the EPA may not be allowed or able to regulate greenhouse gas pollution from sources like power plants or vehicle tailpipes, as they have done for years. Congress has done its job by passing legislation over several decades, including the Clean Air Act, that supports the EPA's mandate to regulate climate pollution. Needless to say, this alarming proposal has huge implications for undoing much of the work that you've done to control air pollution. So I hope you are speaking out against it as well. I'll end on a more upbeat note and call your attention to Sunday, 2 words, which will be held on Sunday, 1 word, September 21st. It will celebrate the many benefits of clean, renewable solar power. I'll update you on local plans for the event at your September meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. How are we doing?
Thank you. Modesto, I think we're almost ready. I think they're working on interpretation. We do have somebody else commenting, I believe, in Modesto while we're waiting for that.
Okay.
No, I have Ms. Bianca Lopez coming to the podium.
Good morning, Bianca.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, unfortunately, we are here waiting for interpretation, but it appears that we can't just choose to come to a meeting last minute because interpretation is not available unless you request it 3 days ahead of time. That is a disservice and that is injustice. That is racist. That is not okay and it should not be acceptable. You should have, just like you have tech here every meeting, you should have an interpreter here every meeting. Community members don't get to pick 3 days before. I'm not even sure when you release the agenda. It's probably 3 days before. People don't access the agenda and then determine if they can be here or not, or if they need to be here. That is not okay. I actually came here to talk about our community emissions reduction project, but this is very upsetting. We have a community member who has been very involved and been learning about air quality, pesticide exposure, and awareness. And she was ready to share her experience with you. So I will be translating for her today. Our community emissions reduction project is a plan that we are putting together countywide. Other regions have chosen and selected a small community to do their SERP, but we've chosen to not select one community, but to do it countywide. And this is new. No other county or no other community organization has done this, and we are one of a kind. We have yet to see Rosa Escutia and Vito Chiesa participate in any of our workshops or meetings. Nobody in the community knows who you are, that you are our representatives in this board. It is imperative that you show up to community meetings that are related to air quality, and that you come out to just regular meetings to let people know that this is the seat that you serve in, and that you are representing us here when we're having an air quality issue. Yesterday, there was a big fire in Riverbank. Where was the air district for support? There was no mitigation, implementation of awareness or any plan like that. Riverbank and Oakdale and fire departments, cities, school districts had to address this without your support. You have a presentation today about wildfires. That started as a brush fire and it burned down several houses. It still kind of smells like smoke. We can still see the smoke in the air. But nobody was instructed to stay indoors. Nobody was given N95 masks. So you as our representatives should be reaching out when these situations happen at a local level. Our city council, our small communities, right? Like Riverbank and Oakdale, they're small towns. They don't have the resources like big cities like Modesto have. We should have been there to protect the communities and to bring awareness about how to protect themselves when this is happening. People are complaining about their smoke coming into their home. We don't have proper ventilation in our homes, right? These are the kinds of things that we're hearing from community members, not just in cases of emergencies, but as we've been holding these spaces throughout the county. So I look forward to sharing more with you about our community emissions reduction project. And I'd like to just maybe confirm if our community member can be here. And it's very unfortunate, again, that somebody has to request 3 days before a meeting.
Thank you, Bianca.
When
your
you don't
time,
even release the agenda.
Bianca,
on
your
for us
time is
to
up,
decide.
Bianca. Thank
I know
you
this.
for your time. And I appreciate if you will be translating. I really appreciate you offering to do that. So is our
$40 an hour.
there?
¿Quiere hacer un comentario?
Through the chair, just
Yes.
really quick. This is Samir, the executive director here. Just wanted to also just say that we do have an interpreter available that can, we'll let the commenter there with Bianca decide, whether they like our interpreter to interpret here, as she makes her comments, or for, Bianca, if she wants to do that as well. Just wanted to
Okay, so
offer
Bianca,
that as well.
we do have an interpreter here in Fresno that can interpret for us. If you would prefer not to, either way, you or the commenter can make that decision.
Maria will speak in Spanish and you can interpret.
Thank you.
Mi nombre es María Ramos. Tengo ya 40 años viviendo aquí en el área de Stanislaus. Me he involucrado mucho ahorita en las escuelas y por mis hijos y mis nietos, y ahorita en el programa de aire limpio en la comunidad, y pues me está interesando bastante saber. Y también me gustaría que si se pudieran los representantes de aquí del condado de Stanislaus o de aquí de Modesto se pudieran ir a la comunidad a conocerlos, y también para que podamos tener la información en español. Muchas gracias.
Is the mic on?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Ramos. I live in the Stanislaus County area for about 40 years. I'm very involved with the schools because of my grandchildren and children. And I've also been involved with clean air initiatives here in this area. I'm very interested and involved, and I would like for the representatives from the Modesto area or even in our Stanislaus County to come visit my area so that you guys are informed and well aware of what we are doing here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ramos.
Okay, are there any other commenters in Modesto?
No further comments in Modesto.
No further comments online or in person.
Okay, we will move on to our next item. Always an exciting item, and that is our star recognition.
Yes, thank you. Good
Morning.
morning, Chair, members of the board, Adriana Majovich, Director of HR. It is a pleasure to be here this morning and an honor to present the following item before you. As you are aware, an essential component to the district star culture is ensuring to recognize employees' contributions. In light of keeping with that commitment, we are proud to formally recognize and show our appreciation to the individuals who have reached a service milestone during the second quarter of 2025. They're in Fresno here this morning. So we appreciate your contributions and thank you for your commitment and service to the district. With that, I will start with 5 years of service. We have Anthony Espinoza, Air Quality Instrument Specialist. Rochelle Lee, Senior HR Analyst. For 10 years of service, we have Esme Martinez, Senior Office Assistant. For 15 years of service, we have Carrie Tultod, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. For 25 years of service, we have Thomas Martinez, General Services Foreman. For 30 years of service, we have Robert Garabedian, Air Quality Inspector. Congratulations, all of you, and thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Again, this is one of the best items I think that we ever have on an agenda is to recognize you and thank you for, I didn't add it up. Vito, did you add it up? You usually do, but there was a lot of years of service. So thank you to your commitment to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, our next item is a report on District Citizens Advisory Committee activities. '95. Thank you. 95 years. Not you, Manuel.
Oh, my God.
Bad timing, Manuel. Sorry, man.
Okay. Again, congratulations to all of them.
Thank you.
I mean, since 1991, 92, and then when you see all of these staff, and we've seen them from Bakersfield to Fresno to Modesto, I just can't believe it. 25 years for someone that we just started working with them. I mean, Todd even going to deny his application for retirement. Morgan is not going to happen. Shiraz ain't going to happen. Jamie Holt definitely ain't going to happen. So all of those are going to be denied.
You haven't mentioned Samir, I noticed.
Definitely,
All right.
Samir.
All right,
Again,
Manuel.
thank you very much. You have a great amount of things to go on, but I just want to focus on some of the things that are on your handouts in the CAC report. First, I want to acknowledge that the California Resources Board presentation at our last CAC meeting was tremendous. So Dr. Pacheco Warner, you can definitely relay that the agenda, having actual materials of points to talk about, was tremendous. And it was really great. It made the entire meeting very valuable of what's going on within the agency. So I want to commend your efforts. I know you were involved in that, and the chair of the CAC for her great professional letter that she forwarded to Dr. Randolph. So that was, and then Samir gave a complete great report on the funding mechanisms for all of what's going on in Sacramento, especially on the farmer program. Him and his entire team have worked hard on that, and the ag burn and the Cars for All program and all of those type of funding mechanisms, but he did a great report. Also, you have today for the hearing board, you approved the young man up north that is on the hearing board, an engineer, used to be on the board. So that was an item that the CAC approved and recommended to you. Let's see what else is the main areas, because I know you have a lot of things going on. Also talked about the staff study agency meeting in October, the 15th and 16th up at Bass Lake. So we look forward to that as well. I know that many of us talked about it on Monday, the CAGI group, the citizens of our industries. And so I think a lot of folks are going to be going to it and looking forward to the activities of that. But again, before if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them if any board members.
Don't see the board lining up.
Okay.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you. And
Thank
Samir, we hope you want you to stay a long time. Okay?
All right, our next item is number 8. It's an update on the 2025 wildfire prevention and response efforts.
Hey, good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm John Klassen, Director of Air Quality Science, and I'll be joined here by Jamie Holt, Chief Communications Officer. So we're going to give you an overview of what's been happening so far this year with the wildfire season and what we do for outreach when these events occur. So as we know, just a bit of background, wildfires can generate an enormous amount of emissions, can easily overwhelm all of our local control measures here, and they can lead to very high levels of particulate matter pollution, as well as ozone. Wildfires don't just produce PM, they produce precursors to the formation of ozone. So we can see our ozone levels spike as well when these events occur. Wildfires are getting more and more intense over time, as we've seen. This is due to fire suppression policies, leading to excessive fuel buildup throughout the forests, tree mortality issues, drought, changing climate conditions, making fires more frequent and more intense. For a long time, we've been very supportive of fuel reduction efforts at the local level, state level, and federal level to help reduce the frequency of fires, reduce the severity of wildfires when they happen, and we can conduct quite a bit of public outreach when these events do occur, which Jamie will provide some details on that. We wanted to note here too that there's a lot of research coming out recently showing that exposure to wildfire smoke specifically is very impactful to health, even more than just other types of PM 2.5. And this is due to wildfire smoke, including a lot of toxic chemicals that other types of particulate matter may not have. It can include a number of toxic VOCs and black carbon. The size of the particulates can be very small in the ultrafine range, so much smaller than PM 2.5. So it can get deeper into the lungs, into the bloodstream, causing inflammation. And people can be exposed to very high concentrations of wildfire smoke. When these wildfire plumes can hit communities, concentrations can be 1 to 200 micrograms or higher at times. And so a lot of things have been published the last couple of years showing that there can be cardiovascular and respiratory issues up to 3 months after exposure to wildfire smoke. There can be long-term issues if you're exposed to smoke for a long time that can cause digestive, endocrine, kidney, or mental health issues, and also increase the risk of dementia from exposure to wildfire smoke. So drought conditions across the state, we like to look at this, looking at last year versus where we are this year. And when we compare August of 2024 versus where we are now, things are more dry than they were about a year ago. You can see a lot of California is entering a moderate drought or severe drought areas. You can see parts of the valley are definitely colored to be in a drought condition. And we expect this to continue in the coming months as the summer continues on, we get into the fall. And this last winter season wasn't the wettest winter. And so we see conditions quite a bit drier than we were a year ago. And this will increase the fire risk, of course, as the fuels out there are drier than they were a year ago. Looking at the activity so far in 2025 for the wildfire season, the number of acres that have burned is close to 400,000 acres across the state. And that's pretty close to where we were last year at this point in time. So the year-to-date numbers are fairly close. But the number of individual fires that have burned so far in the state is more than what we've seen last year and more than the 5-year average. So it's been a pretty active year to start off the wildfire season these past few months. And when we compare where we are to the so far this year to date versus where we've been in the past seasons, this chart here shows over the past 20 years, the total number of acres burned across California from wildfire. And you can see the total annual numbers ramping up once we hit like 2013, 2014. We saw some very severe drought years those years. The years 2020 and 2021 were those two record-breaking years that we had a few years ago. And then all the way on the right-hand side, highlighted in red there, is where we are 2025 year to date. So far this year, we've already surpassed the totals that we saw in 2022 and 2023. So it's been more active than those entire wildfire seasons. And this number we expect to continue to grow as we get into the fall season. We wanted to note too that those record-breaking years in 2020 and 2021, the largest fires that we saw in those years didn't happen until August and September, later in the fall. So you look at the 2025 number, that could grow significantly if we see wildfire activity happening into the fall season. And although we haven't had significantly large wildfires so far this year, we have had very destructive wildfires. As you probably remember, the Eaton and Palisades fires in Southern California destroyed thousands of structures and made the list here that CAL FIRE puts out every few months. They're two of the top 3 most destructive wildfires in California history. It's heartbreaking what happened down there. And this is just evidence that these wildfires aren't just happening in remote areas, they're happening closer to communities and causing a lot of damage. So what's the outlook for the rest of the summer season into the fall and into the winter? NOAA and their long-term meteorological forecasts are predicting that we'll be in a La Nina condition, and that's when ocean temperatures are a bit cooler than average. That's the image on the left-hand side showing those ocean temperatures are looking a bit cooler. That can limit convection and then limit the creation of storms over the ocean, and therefore a lot of the weather in the southwestern US can be warmer, it can be drier without storms coming through. So that's predicted what could happen into the fall season, into the winter. And because of that, that could prolong fire season if there's not going to be any big storms, no snowfall happening in the mountains. And so the National Interagency Fire Center on the right-hand side, that image is showing that fire potential will continue to be high into the September and October timeframe. And then some of the activity that's happened so far this year, I won't read all of this, but this is a list of some of the fires that have impacted the region here that have been happening across California. There are 2 of note that I wanted to point out that have been the largest so far. The Madre Fire in San Luis Obispo burned just over 80,000 acres. And then the Gifford Fire, which was active over this past month, burned over 131,000 acres, both in San Luis Obispo County, which is right next to Kern County. And so a lot of those emissions impacted the southern part of the valley. Just a few more notes on these fires. The Madre Fire, this started on July 2nd. This was in the Carrizo Plain of San Luis Obispo County, and over just a few days, it exploded to over 80,000 acres. And the smoke from this wildfire hit Bakersfield area down in Kern County specifically. And just a few satellite images here of the few days when the fire first started. That's July 2nd on the left-hand side. Then on the 3rd, you see a lot of smoke production. Then on the 4th, just to the right there, you see a lot of smoke over Kern County that impacted a lot of the communities down there. This shows the concentrations of PM 2.5 down in Bakersfield during that time frame. So often, usually during the summer season, we see single digits of concentrations for PM 2.5. And so you see during these time periods, we see these big spikes of pollution up to the values above 50 micrograms in the Bakersfield area, which is way above what we normally see during the summertime period. And then a few notes on the Gifford fire. This is the other large fire in San Luis Obispo County. This started early this month on August 1st, and this was in the Los Padres National Forest, right in between San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties. And this one also grew very quickly, got to over 130,000 acres in just a few weeks. And this is the largest fire in California so far this year. And you can see on the image on the bottom right-hand side, a lot of that smoke heading right over the San Joaquin Valley that impacted our air quality for a few days. And here's just a looping video here, satellite image just showing, this is August 7th, the activity from the Gifford fire. That's on the top left-hand side. And then the other fire burning bottom right of that is the Canyon fire in Ventura County that also impacted regions down in Southern California. And similar to the Madre fire, our air quality was also impacted by the Gifford fire. This shows the few days after the fire was very active and started over in San Luis Obispo County. And you can see again, the values here are much higher than what we normally see in the summer, seeing concentrations above 50 micrograms, 40 micrograms in the southern region of the valley. So we wanted to know too that we continue to work with land managers to reduce fuels to support their efforts to respond to wildfires. We also coordinate with CAL FIRE. We have our online portal available for residents getting their permits for hazard reduction burning, making that process easier. We continue to support that. And when wildfires do happen, we support the land managers. We are on a daily call where we talk about wildfire and prescribed burn projects, what the plans are for the coming week. And we give an outlook on the air quality. Our staff does that, and meteorology. And there's a good discussion and collaboration there about upcoming projects. We also continue to host our cooperators meeting where land managers can come in and talk about their plans for the year, how the process is going, how we can better support them. We held that in April of this year, and that was a great meeting. We also attend interagency and local fire safe council meetings as they come up to provide our support. And then we also continue to provide information to the public to try to educate about the various types of outdoor burning that happen throughout the valley. And this graphic here shows a lot of different types of burning. But specific to this topic, we have information here about hazard reduction burning. What is that exactly? What's prescribed burning? What are wildfires? And all the different aspects that come into play for those types of burning. And we also continue to support land managers. We also continue to operate our air monitoring equipment cash program. So what this program is focused on is if a land manager wants to do a prescribed burn project and they want to measure air quality in the community nearby, we have equipment that we can loan to them for them to put out in the area, in the community, so that the residents can see what's happening with local air quality in real time to understand how it's going. And then the land managers can see that data as well to be able to manage the project. And this data also gets pushed to Air Now so the public can see all this data when these projects are happening. And just as an example, this last year, we were able to work with the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park. We gave them some equipment. That's the equipment on the bottom right-hand side there. We loaned that to them and we helped set it up for them to be able to measure air quality during a prescribed burn project they were conducting near Sequoia Lake up there. And this was placed at the YMCA camp, and we were happy to help them out with that. So at this point, I'll pass it to Jamie to give us an overview of our public outreach efforts when wildfires do occur.
Thank you, John. When we do have these extreme impacts from wildfires hitting our community, providing accurate and timely health protective air quality information is really our priority. We have some great partnerships that includes with our public health officers and directors. We do meetings with them on a regular basis just to make sure they have all the information they need and that we can partner with them when we do have these impacts. We're also part of the Central California Public Health Consortium and the Public Information Officers subgroup of that organization. And that's just a great way for us to continue on a monthly basis to be communicating with this group. We email and or text on a daily basis with our English and Spanish language media to make sure they understand what air quality trends are for any given time. Lots of work with the schools, especially right now. We're in the midst of back to school season, and we're out at a lot of schools talking during drop off, pickup, at PTA events, at copies, back to school nights, all of that. Our team's out there talking about air quality and specifically about what to do if we have wildfire impacts. And then we're always communicating with the public in as many ways as possible. There are a lot of tools available right now. I know we've talked to this group on multiple occasions about the online and digital tools that are out there for the public to get air quality information. I will tell you, most of these tools, 90%, if not 100% of their data is coming from our air monitoring sites. And they're a great way for folks to get air quality information in their hand on a real-time basis. Real quickly, the first two from the left, that's our Valley Air app. It's very popular. We have tens of thousands of downloads. Next, you see air quality information. That's just a basic weather app. We then have a couple of EPA products. These are also good and kind of outside of the Valley, the gold standard for air quality communication tools. We have the Air Now app, and then right next to it, second from the right, is their fire and smoke map. We really promote the fire and smoke map when we're having the smoke impacts because it shows the smoke plumes. You can kind of see there the grayed areas. That's where the smoke is kind of traveling. This is a little bit of an older photo. Right now, there's not a lot of smoke in the Valley. Thank goodness, knock on wood, fingers crossed, all the things. Last but not least is the Purple Air platform. That's one of the community personal air sensors that people have that also share air quality information. We've got a great wildfire page that gives you lots of resources, including what to do, what are the wildfires that are currently impacting the Valley, what are the wildfires that were recently impacting the Valley, and then links you to our grant programs and some of our partner agencies' websites. One of the great websites that's recently kind of been revamped, CAL FIRE, has a new web page and a new kind of piece of this or something that they're offering is that you can put your cell phone number in there and you'll get text alerts when there's wildfire activity near the location of your choosing. You put your zip code in and then you'll get a text alert if there's a wildfire in your area that you need to be informed of. Social media continues, for better or worse, to be one of the best ways for us to get our information out to the public really quickly. Right now we're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, Nextdoor, a little bit on LinkedIn if we feel it's appropriate. We put this app both in English and Spanish, and we have hundreds of thousands of followers on these platforms. We also do an incredible amount of outreach with the public in the community when we're out at these events. One is we've got our little wildfire infographic in multiple languages here. We also have a wildfire brochure. This also comes in multiple languages, just tools for folks to have that give them some information on how they can have a plan when we do have those smoke impacts. Couple of programs that we have. A few years ago, we launched the Clean Air Rooms program. This was a program developed to protect Valley residents and really help them set up what we call a clean air room in their home. That's a room that they can basically close off, maybe a bedroom or living room where folks can hang out. We then sent them to their home a free residential air filtration unit. It was really targeted at a disadvantaged and low-income households. Allows folks to basically create a space where they can escape from the smoke. It launched in 2022, and we've allocated over $8 million in funding and distributed nearly 25,000 air filtration units throughout the Valley. We also have our Clean Air Centers program. This is a network of publicly accessible facilities. Library is a great example. I was in our local library a couple weeks ago and they had their little signage up. They're available for Valley residents who may not have access to someplace where they can go to escape the smoke. Currently, we're operating 69 centers in the Valley, but we do have funding still available. And I want to thank you all. Several of you have really taken this project on and really helped us get this program up and running in centers up and down the Valley. So a little bit of funding still left. This allows the library, the senior center, the youth center, the community centers to basically purchase a larger kind of industrial grade air filtration device that they can set up. They're required to use it. Most folks use it all the time, but they're required to use it when we have these kind of wildfire smoke events. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Through the chair, just one quick
Yes.
comment. Sorry, I should have jumped in a little bit faster there. I just want to acknowledge the board's leadership on this topic. Just recently, there was a national award provided for the comprehensive nature of the wildfire response program. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, that, you know, a lot of folks are I think trying to emulate, some of the work that we're doing here. And we're always looking for better ways to enhance the work, just given how important this topic continues to be to the residents of the Valley. So just wanted to do a shout out to the board for continuing to really prioritize this, and it's being recognized at the national level for being innovative.
Thank you. Dr. Pacheco Werner.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much to both of you for this comprehensive update. I wanted to just kind of note that on the RAN front, I've been hearing from community, especially during the wildfire events that happened in San Luis Obispo, that they felt that it was easiest to sort of see the impacts, or if it was impacting their health. And so I know that we've had so much back and forth about that, but I think that our system is really easy to understand in a way that some of the other ones still aren't. So teach them something. And I also, so I have 3 questions. So I'm just going to ask them all. And I wanted to kind of see if you can tell me a little bit more about specific ongoing efforts with federal agencies, as I did notice that some of those bigger fires were in federal lands that have happened this year and that have impacted the Valley. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about the coordination with them. And I know we have our upcoming study agency item, so talk about that there too. And then also, I know that while we're funds are going to be more tight around the air filtration units, although I love the plug for the community centers, that's still being available. I was wondering if there's plans for education campaign around the box fan filters, and also if there is, or upcoming or in the plans, however I can be of support, please let me know. And then finally, I wanted to see a little bit about, you talked about ozone, and I wanted to learn more about, and if now's not the time, that's okay. Just in terms of, I was looking with my 6-year-old, and I'm not telling you all to make the annual report part of your bedtime reading, but he was noticing about, our progress with the ozone over the years in our annual report. And then he's like, Mom, where is that red line that's still there? And I was like, well, that's us. That's where we live in Eastern Fresno County. And so I was wondering, just in terms of how it does affect the eastern parts of the Valley, is there a relationship when these wildfires happen, even if the smoke may not directly be traveling over there? Is there like an ozone impact in the eastern Valley along the Sierras? So thank you.
Sure, I'll take a quick, if you're okay with that, quick stab at, and then just feel free to add. I'll defer, John, maybe you can respond on the federal agency interactions a bit in terms of what we've seen there. And of course, like you mentioned, we are suggesting that in October at the upcoming study session that we actually have some of our partners on the state and federal side be there to kind of report on what they see happening and coming in the coming year. But definitely can give you a quick response on that. I do think that on the air filtration units and the box fans, and really thinking about how we can be most impactful in the coming year, we really should be kind of ramping up, I think, the educational component on the box fans, and mainly that's due to the fact that we really don't have a lot of funding in that program. We're actually out of the Valley-wide funding. We're actually looking for more funding to see if we can continue the reach of the air filtration unit program. And so I think with that, given the lower cost nature and effectiveness actually of the box fan, and we do have it embedded in our materials, is part of our approach, as part of the strategy, but are there creative ways that we can really get that message across so that folks can take advantage of some of the solutions with those units? That's something we definitely want to work with you on some more. And you've always been great. You've been a resource to help us with that, and really appreciate that. And then on the ozone piece, I'll just quick response, and if John wants to add to it, he can feel free to add to it. We do know that wildfires not only create direct PM 2.5, as John kind of outlined some of the readings that you saw, they also introduce quite a bit of ozone precursors, namely NOx emissions, but also VOC emissions into the atmosphere. There's been a lot of science on this. There have been documented impacts in other regions. We've actually looked at this in the past as well. We're really interested in understanding that as fire impacts continue to grow, because I think it's really important as we think about the ozone planning and the ozone standards that we have a good handle on how much of those emissions are coming from different sources. So as we think about strategies, we really understand, what's most effective, and we can take that into account and really just update the science on where those emissions are coming from, so that we're very diligent in guiding kind of the strategy development side of that. So we're it's actually a priority of ours in the air quality science department. We've actually been actively talking about, where's the latest on that? What are the emissions that are coming from these fires? How do we trace those from different areas where the fires are happening, and just, really try to understand, how we can take advantage of some of the latest work that's coming out. There's satellite work, for example, that has been helpful in understanding that. It's just one example of where some of the science has evolved to where we might be able to get a better handle essentially on what we know to be a lot of those emissions, coming into the region. It is really important to understand that as we, get really, really close to meeting the 84 part per billion standard and keep marching towards the 75 and the 70 PPP standards. I don't know, John, if you want to add on the federal agency side and anything else on the ozone side as well. Yeah, just one more piece on the ozone question is in the Eastern Valley along the Sierras, we've seen a lot of progress there too. If you look at some of those maps, and we have a couple sites up there that have been operating for decades. The Park Service has implemented those sites, and if you look at the past of where it used to be versus where it is now, it is much better. So it's good to see that forward progress. And for the federal agencies, for the Forest Service, we work with them pretty extensively. There's a lot of Forest Service land within our district boundaries. We work with them on the daily 1 o'clock call where we hear about their projects. We give them our outlook on air quality and meteorology. They come to our cooperators meeting each spring to get their feedback. And then, we're going to hope to have them at the study session to hear more about their resources and what they have planned and what we can do to better support them. Yeah.
Thank you. Supervisor McCauley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a couple things. First and foremost, I just want to thank John for making the comment around we're not out of wildfire season yet. I've actually heard that from a couple people. Thank God we're almost through the summer and it's almost over. And of course, the reminder I give them is, Creek Fire broke out early September, one of the largest single fires in California history. And I personally spent about 2 weeks without seeing my shadow because there was so much smoke in the air. So that's a tough thing to go through. Also wanted to note, the number of fires versus acreage. I think that's a direct result of some of the investments the state has been making in CAL FIRE. So I just want to tip my hat to them and extend some appreciation for all the great work they've done this summer. And then as far as my question goes, I think it was mentioned earlier, comments around direct outreach in a fire, those sorts of things. And so I was hoping, Jamie, you might be able to just kind of elaborate on how that goes. And if there's been any discussions on improving those outreach efforts. I'm thinking things along like geofencing when you have a fire, in the more impacted areas, or maybe even like direct outreach through text message. I think what I've seen with folks is, they're really not concerned with issues until they're directly impacted. Like, hey, I've got smoke in the air. And then I got a message from, the air board saying, hey, you can go build a box fan and this is how you do it. And I think that's going to be, yield some really great tangible results for us. So I just wanted to make those comments. And then specifically on the box fan, maybe just suggest rebranding. It could be like the Wheeler box fan or something like that. That might help get people on board with that. So, and I think that's it. So.
Just real quick, first, I just want to acknowledge Supervisor McCauley's role. He's one of, I think, 2 local members on the state's forest task force. I forget the exact name of the task force, but which is a really important role. And just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of how great it is to have a local member here, be a part of that process as those conversations continue. On the outreach piece, I definitely, want to take advantage of the suggestion that you made. Typically, when there's a prescribed burn going on, or if there's a wildfire response, typically the land management agency is really the point person on conducting the outreach. We do interact with them. We have been working with them to try to improve messaging, and then we obviously use our tools to get the word out as well. But there has been advancements in technology, as you saw with the CAL FIRE page. I do wonder, whether we can keep brainstorming that, and unless the answer is it's already happening, which I'll let Jamie weigh in. But I think if there's more technology to be used, I would highly encourage that, as part of those interactions with, say, CAL FIRE, whoever it might be. So I think it's a great suggestion, something we can definitely follow up on.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
yeah.
maybe the answer is not, reinventing the wheel. Maybe it's just making sure that CAL FIRE has the appropriate information, so it's getting out, and they don't have to look in 12 different directions to get the information.
Absolutely. So, anything you want to add to that, or do the chair?
No, I think anytime we can combine messages during these issues is key. And I think this CAL FIRE text message website issue, it's my understanding that they're just kind of getting it up off the ground. So I think working with them to make sure we understand when they're going to use it, how they're going to use it, and maybe letting us know or letting us include some of our messaging in there, that might be key.
Excellent. And then, I just one more question, specifically in regards to the impacts, the public health impacts on smoke. Have we done any research on wildfire smoke versus urban smoke? I mean, obviously, when we have a fire in a residential area or commercial area, whether it's lithium or just a residential structure, the emissions coming out are very different, right? And so the impacts on public health, I think that's important information for us to understand as we're trying to prioritize limited resources moving forward. So just wanted to throw that out there.
To touch on that, yeah, there has been some research on that. When fires are burning through communities or burning homes, they're burning cars, tires, paint. Yeah, the emissions from those sorts of fires can be especially toxic. And so there's a big concern with some of that, but that's really important to remember. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Rickman. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Just a quick statement and question real quick. I know earlier this year, the state updated the fire hazard severity zone maps. And I mean, I can speak to, San Joaquin County. I know the southern portion of the county is, mostly grassland that's moderate to high risk. And I know I've asked this before, is there a chance to get some type of incentive funding to, clear some of these grasslands or disc them during fire season, especially around like the PG&E substations or lines? I mean, have we talked with the state about that or with PG&E on something that possibly could be done in the future?
Through the chair, I think that's an interesting suggestion, and one that you've raised in the past as well, and one that we've definitely it's I think really on a list of. There's no easy solution as far as we've been able to find in terms of, say, providing funding to a resident to do that. And that there is a requirement too, right? So there's part of the issue here is that there's expectations to do certain levels of work, but then I think the reality is that it can be difficult, and so I think with the October meeting that's coming up, just to put it out there for the board to consider, maybe when we brainstorm, how can we continue to be most effective in supporting anything related to HAZ materials reduction, or forest fuels, or it's something we can definitely continue to explore. And we know there's a lot of state funds that are intended to support, kind of local materials reduction efforts. I don't know if those funds, I certainly don't think they're available today for those types of projects, but maybe there's conversations that could be had. There's other ideas that have been coming up recently, kind of in the same, I would say, bucket of, how do we work together to empower, more cost-effective reductions, even things like sheep and goat herds, and how, what role do they play in there's chuckles, but I mean, this is like a real thing, right? In terms of they do provide some real solutions, and I'm just wondering if, kind of with your question, whether we're all whether we've exhausted all the opportunities to support, those types of efforts. So I think we can definitely keep it on the list of what can we do to support that, and have some conversations, maybe more conversations in October when we have the item coming up.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Samir. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing, just John, Jamie, I'd like to huddle up with you a little bit on the clean air centers, just because if you look at the map, Kings County's, underrepresented for sure. Now, Mayor Preciado did a great job representing Avenel. I think there's 4 or 5 facilities over there, but Hanford, Lemoore, Corcoran, Ormona, we don't have anything. So I'd like to talk to you about that. I did mention to Mayor Patty Matthews about it, and she said they had applied in Lemoore, but for some reason they weren't accepted. So if we could just look closer at that, so we could fill that void, I'd appreciate it. And also Samir just addressed part of this, but in the past, I love the prescribed burning. I think that's a great option for forest management. But the animal option, even though it is a chuckle, is something we used to use. And at some point we stopped doing it. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I'd at least like to have the conversation because it seems like it's a win-win for both parties. And then lastly, a question, I think I've asked this before, but the policy changes from time to time. So what is the federal policy now in regards to the fires? I know CAL FIRE will put out California fires, but the feds used to have a policy of let it burn. Is it still that case, or has that changed?
Yes.
That has changed over time. Yeah, I've seen the policy kind of go back and forth between letting it burn, and then some projects that have let burn have kind of got out of control and have done a lot of damage. And then they've gone back and they were more aggressive in putting fires out. So I think they're trying to strike a balance between the two based on where the fire is in relation to a nearby community. If it's closer to community, perhaps they could be more aggressive. If it's really out in the middle of nowhere, maybe they can just let it go to help reduce fuel. So I think they're trying to strike a balance.
And how does that work? I mean, they rely on CAL FIRE to do that work, or how does that happen?
They do that work themselves. Yeah, they have their own fire staff who can respond to wildfires and put them out. And a lot of these incidents, if they're on land that's managed by CAL FIRE, it's a joint project, interagency between CAL FIRE and the Forest Service. They can work on those things together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may, I would just say, I believe there's a bill out there put forth by Congressman McClintock, which would really tie Forest Service hands around this issue, not allow them to just kind of let it creep or burn, which is a really valuable tool for Forest Service. I know some folks do have some concerns around it, and I certainly wouldn't be opposed to putting some constraints around, our forest supervisors on how they're conducting this activity. But to just say they can't do it at all, I think really limits their ability because they are under-resourced. It is one of the best tools they have to manage the forest. But I mean, I think everybody would agree that, September is not the time to let, fire burn, right? We got to get out there and put that out. So some constraints I think are necessary, but I think at the same time, we have to recognize that prescribed fire is one of the most important tools we have in our toolbox. So I just want to throw that out there.
Appreciate that. Supervisor Mendez.
Now, there's some pretty good questions, and you guys answered them really good. One of the things that, we talked about in there, you had a graph on, the different fire years, and if you actually go back and look, they really don't completely line up to wet year, dry year. They really don't, because 2006 was a very wet year, but the fire that year was already way more than 05, and then 07 and 08 were a lot of fires. 11 kind of matches up to that, where it's low fire year. 17 does not match up to that. That's a higher fire year with a lot of rain events. Then you go back to 23, that kind of matches back up again. So and you guys have hit it, and I applaud you for working, with land managers on, exactly what's going on with the atmosphere and what they need to do, because this is all about management. This is all about mismanagement. It's all about that. And the federal and state government need to spend a hell of a lot more money to fix this problem. Because it is their problem, like this fire you mentioned that in the San Luis Obispo County in a national forest. And then one other thing, talking to a few Cal guys that work for Cal Fire, doing dozing and, trying to do fire breaks and stuff. They told me they thought the biggest problem on the Pacific Palisades fire was what they did over years on management, meaning they permitted structures right up to, cliffs. I mean, there was no place to even attempt to build a fire break. And then people forget this stuff happened in the 50s and 60s where these fires, with Santa Ana winds roll down the canyons and right in through communities and burn them out. This is not new, but I don't think the news media can remember what happened day before yesterday. So, this just kind of goes with the territory. And also you were talking about, structure fires and stuff like that. I sent you a picture of that F-35 that was on fire. That was a pretty toxic blaze there. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Pereira.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Most of it has been said, but I want to kind of highlight two items. One, well, not that I live on the east side of Merced County, but I live east of Turlock and Modesto in the Merced River bottom and have kind of a view of the foothills and the mountains, the Sierras. And I just want to give a shout out to Cal Fire for being so responsive and quick to respond on these fires. And I think that's why the number's up, but the acreage is down. I don't know what they do in the rest of the state. I just know what they do in our area, and they do a phenomenal job. There's an app called the Flight Radar 24, and you can pull it up and you can see sometimes I have 4 or 5 aircraft on a fire, and it's really telling. And then I also want to share with you PG&E, and I think it was a part of the settlement of the Camp Fire, but they have a helicopter stationed at Castle Airport that is a firefighting helicopter, and it has been used in Madera, Merced, and Stanislaus County to fight fires. So I know it was part of a mitigation plan that maybe they kind of had to do, but it's been real helpful. And in Merced County, we're thankful that we have it. And so, but we're always bashing, the governor and PG&E. And so if they do something good, we kind of need to acknowledge that as well. So I wanted to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Pereira. Okay, I see no more questions from the board. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Do we have any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? I do have one coming up.
Slow down.
Manuel Quinonese Farmers. I think this issue, I know, has been a tremendous amount of work by the district and their involvement as I compare to other air districts of how much you have really spent the time. Jamie, you and John and everybody, Samir, your entire team, the collaboration. Some of my students from Sierra High School and Reedley College are forced getting to retire. Something's wrong there. But the one part you made a comment was we have a real challenge. Goats and sheep are tremendous fire preventers, especially in these rural major cities that have steep cliffs. But the problem is we're losing our sheep and goats due to the state of California's Department of Industrial Relations regulation. Sheep herders and goat herders are being mandated by California law, state law, that they are a 24-hour employer. The sheep herders that come in from foreign country, from Peru or some other country, they're here for 3 years. So an average wage for a sheep herder could be as high as $178,000 a year. There's no way that we're making that on sheep. I'm sorry, not on those little woolly burgers. I'm sorry. Goats, they will climb a tree. Goats are just incredible. but we're losing more sheep herders. We were on a call last week and we've lost more sheep and goats in California because of that insanity law that was passed by the state of California. And so that's, to me, needs to be a federal issue. Sheep and goats should be regulated by the federal government upon wages, not this insanity of California. But we've lost 3 goat guys that had 1,200 goats out of Los Angeles. They were running goats in that city and they couldn't keep it going because of the wage. And those little guys, they're not real heavy. They're not 300 pounders. They're 72 pounders and they eat trees and they eat brush, they eat cans, everything. They clean it up. They don't leave anything. And yet we're hurting ourselves because of that. So maybe we can do something down the road from this board saying that we need to support sheep and goats as a prevention of fire, but also needs to be controlled by the federal government versus by the state of California. So thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
Any other commenters in Fresno on this side? Modesto, do you have any public comments on this item?
I have one public comment here in Modesto.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning again. My name is Bianca Lopez. I am a co-founder of project director of Valley Improvement Project. We are a nonprofit organization based in Stanislaus County, but we also work in Madera and San Joaquin County and some small with some small efforts. I want to first give praise to the Healthy Air Living team because they have been very supportive when I've called to make sure that our community members can access some of these incentives, that our school districts are informed. And so I really appreciate that. I like to just be a little bit critical about your RAN program. Here in Stanislaus County, we only have 2 monitors. They're in downtown Modesto and downtown Turlock. So when folks are looking at your RAN program in Riverbank after the fire, that monitor isn't telling them what the air is like, right? So we're recommending and requesting, and at some point we'll start demanding that you place more monitors in other communities. School districts, city buildings, county buildings, those are all perfect places to place these monitors. I also don't see the SJV Air as highlighted as one of the many systems or tools that we can use to identify air quality. Valley Improvement Projects has collaborated with the Central California Asthma Collaborative to place monitors in the gaps, specifically in disadvantaged communities. We have more than a dozen monitors, PM 2.5 monitors that have been co-located, calibrated to your monitors so that communities have access to more immediate and accurate representation of their air quality. I don't see it represented here in your presentation, which is very unfortunate to leave that tool out intentionally or unintentionally, because I know that you're very well aware of it. And so if I'd like to ask a question for clarity, it was mentioned that it's the land management agency that does the immediate or the emergency response and outreach and awareness to communities when there is a fire. Did that happen yesterday in Riverbank? Who is our land management agency here locally? If I may ask and get an answer.
Samir?
Through the chair, does that conclude your comments, Bianca, or did you have any?
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer it, but just want to make sure you get your comments out before.
Yeah, I can add just a couple of things. I like to I just piggyback on the idea. I forget which board member said this, but the text alerts when there is a fire nearby are ideal. We get text alerts or just warnings on our cell phone when we have a tornado warning, right? And they can be very localized, and we can identify exactly the communities that we're targeting. And I know it's possible, so that I appreciate that idea, and I think it's a great one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Bianca. Samir?
Through the chair, yeah, thank you as well for your comments, and definitely wanted to say that SJV Air is an app that in the past and in the future we're happy to also kind of highlight as a tool that is available, and there's been great work done on that. We've actually also collaborated in the past with CCAC in taking a look at some of the efforts there, and so that's definitely something we can continue to work on, as well as just amplifying the comment around the more access there is to alerts, from different angles of looking at these different issues. We're very supportive of that as well. So happy to keep that conversation going. Also wanted to, my comments earlier around CAL FIRE, for example, or other land managers being the point people was specific to prescribed burning and wildfire response. I think on the valley floor, or for, say, certain fires that may happen at an industrial facility or whatever it may be, you would definitely try to interact. There are a variety of different agencies involved in those cases. There's an incident and a kind of a command structure that typically will involve some agency. It could be a county agency, it could be a fire agency. We definitely try to interact in those environments when we're aware of smoke impacts. I'm not familiar. I'm happy to get back to Bianca with exactly what happened there with the Riverbank fire, but we definitely try to be active in that space. We, if there's resources available for, say, temporary monitoring in that situation to help inform the residents that may be impacted by a fire, it's something that we definitely take a look at as part of that interaction. And we have been active in that space, when there's opportunities for, again, I'm not specifically referring to the Riverbank fire here, but I'm happy to look into it and circle back with Bianca as well as with our local board members in the area to see if there's anything that we can learn from that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Modesto, do you have any further commenters?
No further comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Bakersfield, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. And we have no online comments.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to item 9, which is to receive an update on attainment planning efforts to address federal standards.
I'd like to introduce Emily Nealon, who's a director of planning, as well as Tim Franquist, who's the planning manager. Tim is relatively new in his role. He's been with us for several months now, and so just really excited to have him be a part of this presentation. He's been doing great work in the department, comes with many years of experience in this space before coming here to the district. I also wanted to just share some news that Emily actually will be, this will actually be her last board meeting with us, because she's going to be moving on to some really exciting new things, leaving the district. But she's contributing here to the very end, and will always be a champion, she tells me, for the work that we're doing, and always welcome to get back into the air quality space. So just wanted to acknowledge her efforts in her role, and just has done a lot of great work in supporting these ongoing planning efforts that are amongst the trickiest and of most importance to the board. And with that, just want to turn it over to Emily and Tim for this update.
Yeah, I was not prepared for this, but thank you, Samir, for the kind words. But you guys have all been so amazing to work with, and so thankful for all the opportunities. I've been at the district for 6.5 years, and I just feel like I have grown so much professionally, but I am leaving you in great hands with Tim. He is so awesome to work with, and I'm really excited that he gets the chance to present with me today. But yeah, I just want to thank Samir and the board for all of the opportunities. And I'm going to be relocating to be closer to my family. I think some of you guys know they live in San Luis Obispo. So right in line with all the fires that are happening with San Luis Obispo, I'll be moving over there. But very excited for the opportunity, but I will definitely miss the air quality world, and it will be strange. But yeah, thank you so much for everything.
All right. Well, thank you, Samir, and the chair and board members. Love being here. As Samir said, I'm new to the Valley from Phoenix, and the one thing I'm continuing to wonder is when I can put my sweaters away, maybe this weekend. But definitely enjoying the weather here, and really thankful to be part of this team. Just a wonderful legacy of real innovative air quality strategies, again, with the board and the community. So just really grateful to be here with this team. So with that, we'll kind of jump into a little bit of that background and talk about some of those successes and challenges. So with that, I think it's a really great illustration to kind of start off the morning discussion on, what kind of drives, our air pollution really here in the Valley. And there's really 3 kind of main drivers. And the first is no surprise, is our geography. We can see with a basin that's almost near sea level, so the largest mountains that we have in the nation, that really causes kind of a trapping configuration that you can see here illustrated in the picture. The second, of course, is meteorology and our climate. That plays a big role. The summers, we start to see high pressure systems that we get little to no wind. So we get pollution that builds up over the day or over several days. That can create those challenges. In the winter, and I'm sure you've heard many times, our inversion layers also acting as a lid to kind of trap that air pollution in and exacerbated by the big mountains. And then the third variable is obviously where the emissions come from. So we heard a really great discussion this morning. Wildfires really contribute to that. So natural sources, get things like stratospheric ozone intrusion. So even nature can dip down a little bit in very rare circumstances to cause that issue. And then of course, human emissions. And so we can see that illustrated a bit more here in this slide where the Fresno area is a very fast growing area. So there's a lot of construction activity, a lot of commercial and industrial activity. Of course, with several urban areas, we do have the commuter pollution from vehicles, but we have these really special corridor of goods and highways that come through here. So that does allow for a lot of heavy duty traffic. Of course, that does increase pollution in the valley. And so it just really illustrates the need for, addressing mobile source issues on all fronts. So with that, so what has the governing board and strategies and really the stakeholders done here? Well, a tremendous amount. So through just some really effective but tough but effective mission control programs, a really effective grant program, and then really a tremendous amount of collaboration with stakeholders. There's been a remarkable over 90% reduction in pollution here in the valley, which again is just a really tremendous success. So kind of driving home those successes is what are those? Well, there's several standards you can see here that the Valley has achieved over time. So the standards change pretty frequently these days. The district and the strategies here are just really kept up with the times, really look for innovative ways to address those standards. You can see here, these are the ones that the district is successfully met throughout the years. But the biggest highlight being the 15 microgram standard. That's something I think the district is very proud of. It should be very proud of. A huge collaboration by just so many different people working on that issue. In July, the EPA did announce that they will be announcing a clean data finding and a determination of attainment by the attainment date, which is just a huge success. The final proposal should come out hopefully sometime this fall, but that'll be the formal announcement that we have achieved that standard. So continue with those plans. We don't rest on our laurels. We do maintenance plans to cover a 20-year planning cycle. So those are 2 10-year plans to ensure compliance with the standards over time. So we just don't want to meet those 3-year clean data milestones, but we want to make sure that over time that we're continuing to meet those standards. So with that, so where do we stand in the today? So again, a lot of tremendous work over time. We can see those standards, they do change and they change somewhat significantly. We have a peak in terms of PM 2.5 and the historic values. That's from 2001. So over the last 20 years, you can see there's just been a remarkable decrease in emissions there. Over half the monitors in the state are actually meeting the 2012 standards. So we're on the brink of a very big success there. Obviously, a lot of questions around the 2024 standards that could be a big challenge ahead of us, but some really big successes here in the 1997. And like I say, we're on the brink of a really good success with the 2012 standard. A similar story with ozone. Again, some of the highest probably numbers in the nation, maybe if not the highest in the early 2000s with ozone, but we could see just remarkable decrease. So again, just a real testament to the governing board's leadership, to the innovative strategies here at the district, and then again, all the stakeholders in the Valley, all that coming together, we can see just a remarkable decrease in emissions. So again, on the verge of meeting the 1997 standard, I think that'll be a huge milestone. We have the 2 contemporary standards, 2008 and 2015. Definitely pose some challenges, but again, I think with all the strategies in place, wonderful incentive programs, we can get there. And then again, just another wonderful win. I think, when I saw this graphic when I first came to the agency, almost half the days in 2002 were bad air days. 12 years later, that's knocked down to just 25% of the days where folks are breathing air above a health standard. And again, another 12 years later, you're almost at 90% of days where folks are breathing air that meets federal health standards. So again, just a remarkable success over the last 24 years to go from almost half the days where there's some challenges to almost 90 days meeting those standards. So again, just a huge success for everybody that's been involved in those strategies. And I'll turn it over to Emily and she can kind of go a little bit into some of the details on the plans.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Great job. So want to touch on a couple of the recent attainment plans that your board has adopted, particularly our most recent ozone plan and our most recent PM 2.5 plan. So for ozone in 2022, your board adopted an attainment plan to address Clean Air Act requirements for the 2015 8-hour ozone standard of 70 parts per billion. And this plan, along with all of our plans, builds upon the decades of effective control strategies that are already on the books. These really serve as the gold standard measures that we have in place that are already achieving reductions in the near term. The plans build upon extensive science and research, state-of-the-art modeling, and the best available information. All of our plans and all of our planning projects, including our rule development, they're developed through extensive public processes. In particular, this plan was developed over a 2-year public engagement process. And in the next set of bullets, it also mentions that although there's a public process for these attainment plans, the public process continues afterwards as we work through our different commitments, and the public still has an opportunity to come forward, share their thoughts, share their experiences, and the public engagement process is always continuing. This plan in particular shows for attainment by the 2037 attainment deadline. The ozone planning timelines are relatively long. We are designated as extreme non-attainment, so 2037 is the deadline. Again, we have numerous stationary source measures that are already in place achieving reductions in the near term. Again, strong stakeholder engagement is critical in developing any of the new measures that we've included. The plan reduces NOx emissions by 72%, and it includes new commitments from both the district and the state. I will note, and I'll show this in a couple of slides, the district has already, or your board has already adopted all of the commitments that we have included within that plan, which is in particular for the oil and gas industry. So we adopted the plan in December of 2022. Subsequently, the CARB Governing Board adopted it at their January 2023 meeting, and it has been with EPA for their review since then. For PM 2.5, just this last year, your board adopted a plan for the 2012 annual PM 2.5 standard of 12 micrograms per cubic meter. Again, this builds upon our decades of effective strategies, and the plan includes the latest available information and science. Again, developed through an extensive public process. We had numerous public workshops for this project with a lot of public involvement, which really helped shape the plan. The commitments include additional new regulatory and incentive-based measures to get the valley into attainment by 2030, including both district and state measures. And it includes NOx reductions by 66% and PM 2.5 reductions of 16%. So pretty extensive. The plan was adopted last year in June, adopted by CARB in July, and it again has been forwarded to EPA for their review. I know I've mentioned a lot of these rules that we've amended in recent years that are achieving reductions in the near term. This is just a few. This is just since December of 2020. And this includes measures that were adopted as part of our 2018 PM 2.5 plan, which was a pretty extensive plan that addressed multiple standards. You can also see the series of oil and gas rules that we amended as part of the 2022 ozone plan. And then we do have a couple of projects down at the bottom highlighted in yellow that we're currently working through for our 2024 PM 2.5 plan. And that includes reductions from the agricultural industry through conservation management practices and residential wood burning, which continues to be one of our gold standard rules in order to reduce emissions at the localized level. That being said, we have quite a lot of projects that are in EPA's what they call SIP backlog. So we have over 20 rules that are currently with them for review and approval, numerous attainment plans, including the ones I just mentioned, but also a couple of other SIP revisions, we call them, including some packages to address contingency measures, as well as, again, a couple of rules that are with EPA for their review. So we continue to work with EPA to evaluate where they are in these review processes. Most recently, EPA has taken several actions regarding the valley, including a proposed approval of our 1-hour ozone maintenance plan and redesignation request this June, which is a huge accomplishment for the valley. And we're coordinating with EPA to finalize that action, at which point we'll officially be redesignated to attainment, which is really exciting. EPA also proposed to find that we're in attainment of the 15 microgram per cubic meter. Yes, Tanya's dancing. 15 microgram standard, which again is such a huge accomplishment for the valley. We've been working towards this for quite a while, and it's really nice right as I'm leaving to get some great news. And then lastly, a proposed determination that the valley failed to attain the 84 parts per billion 8-hour ozone standard by the attainment date, and that was published in July. So with that, we are working really closely with CARB, EPA, as well as our valley stakeholders on the next steps as we anticipate that EPA will finalize these actions. In particular, for the 1-hour ozone maintenance plan and the failure to attain for the 84 parts per billion standard, when these actions are finalized, these will result in changes to the collection of Section 185 fees under the Clean Air Act, which are non-attainment fees. And it will also trigger implementation of the state's ozone contingency measure, which is a smog check requirement. So we are, again, closely coordinating with our industry stakeholders to communicate potential impacts and also coordinating with CARB and EPA to gauge the timing of all of this. Outside of the Federal Register, I'm sure many of you saw in March of this year, EPA Administrator Zeldin announced a number of actions under 3 different priorities to streamline processes for complying with federal mandates. The 3 categories include unleashing American energy, which includes evaluation of various EPA guidance documents, which can be NESHABs, NSPSs, a million different acronyms, but they're basically EPA guidance documents and a couple of different programs. The second is lowering cost of living for American families, which includes reconsideration of PM 2.5 standards, tailpipe standards, and other reconsiderations. And then lastly, advancing cooperative federalism, which includes reducing that SIP backlog, which is very exciting. As you saw, we have quite a lot that's with EPA. Also prioritizing the allowance of prescribed burning under EPA's exceptional events rule, and then reconstituting different boards and committees, as well as other changes. So we are closely tracking this process as EPA publishes various actions and also analyzing different potential impacts that may happen for the Valley's programs and strategies. And then lastly, I wanted to touch on EPA recent actions as well as CARB recent actions related to mobile source waivers. As you know, mobile sources make up over 80% of the Valley's NOx emissions, which is primarily under state and federal jurisdiction. Our attainment strategies, in particular, the 2 plans that I just mentioned, the 2022 ozone plan and the 2024 PM 2.5 plan, include reductions from these measures that now have disapproved waivers. And so these measures represent the majority of the reductions from CARB's mobile source strategy, and in particular, 25 to 30% of the needed reductions of NOx for those attainment plans. So we are currently working with CARB and EPA to discuss potential solutions. In addition to that, I wanted to note that there are some transportation conformity implications related to these disapprovals. Specifically, the mobile source models and budgets include reductions from these measures. So we are working with CARB as well as the metropolitan planning organizations throughout the Valley to discuss potential solutions for that as well. I will note also, because of this shortfall of reductions from the mobile source measures, we are continuing to advocate for feasible strategies to reduce emissions from mobile sources, including in particular heavy-duty trucks, locomotives, and off-road equipment. So with that, that concludes my presentation, but I will pass it to Samir for some closing thoughts.
I just wanted to, well, thanks for the great presentation. Wanted to add a little bit more about the critical juncture that I think we're at, with these planning issues. We will be, I think, regularly providing updates, and as some of the quantification of some of these impacts, or as some of the federal actions continue to move forward, there'll be more, I think, detail, as to where the board may want to go and adjust, as some of these things, play out. Just a reminder, it's fairly early, actually, in the new administration, although there's been quite a flurry of activity that I think a lot of us are trying to process and kind of work through. We do have again, going back to the next couple of agenda items here, we're going to talk about, the draft agenda for the October meeting, where I hope to have, another conversation about this, and there'll be more conversations to be had. It is, a fast-moving environment between the state and the federal government on the various measures. Just to give you one example, there's a report that just recently came out from CARB to the, not just CARB, from a couple of state agencies to the governor in response to an executive order that is really focused on where does the state go next, recommendations for zero emissions transitions in light of some of these challenges that the state has been facing with the current mobile source regulations that have now either been withdrawn by the state or have been disapproved by Congress. There was an executive order. There's a report just a couple of days ago that was submitted to the governor. And we'll see what comes next from that. We've been really active in trying to make sure that really just as a bigger picture perspective on this, that we really have our eye on the ball in terms of continuing to push for measures that do reduce emissions as needed in our plans, as needed by our communities to keep making those air quality improvements. There's a suite of different things that we all can be working on, that we are working on. You'll hear about this a little bit later as well in the budget side, state budget, and the work that we're doing there to try to make sure different programs like the farmer program that's about replacing basically diesel tractor and other off-road equipment, that we keep moving forward on all these different measures, while also looking at infrastructure challenges, zero emissions technology. How do we keep moving forward with that as well? We have a multifaceted platform here. So there's a lot of activity going on in that space, a lot of conversations that are going on. And we'll have to work really hard, I think, with both CARB and EPA to ultimately make sure that the plans and the rules that are in front of EPA right now, or the plans that need to be adjusted in the future in light of some of the things that are going on currently, that we have as much of a collaborative environment as possible to move forward on these things, ultimately to not put the valley in peril of some of the major consequences under the Clean Air Act, in addition to the not making progress on the air quality front and the public health implications of that, but also putting us in a situation where the economic consequences are put in place. Those include losing transportation funding, highway funding is one of the sanctions if we're not able to meet these different Clean Air Act requirements, and also having sanctions on permitting for certain projects that really can have a major impact on those projects. So all of us really have to work hard together in an environment where there's clearly a lot of things that are happening almost daily, it seems like, and so we're trying to navigate those waters as best as we can. As you saw from Emily's presentation, even in this environment, you're still seeing action from EPA. For example, the proposed approvals and attainment findings that we saw here just in the last couple of months, but also some of the ongoing challenges, like how do we need to make sure that, for example, on the ozone standard, that we get that final push there to get into attainment of that 84 part per billion standard, and then get all these rules and plans ultimately approved by the federal government. So I'll stop there. Just wanted to give some wrap up comments, and with that, there's no action here. This is really just a report, but happy to take questions or comments. Turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Mike.
She heard me. Yeah, I've known you and your family for a very long time, that Visalia connection. I wish you the best in what you have ahead of you, and thank you for all your work here at the district.
Through the chair, did you want to call for public comments?
Oh, I guess so.
Okay, thank you. Bakersfield, do you have any comments?
Yes, Manuel has something probably. Do we have any public comments?
Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
We have one public comment in Modesto.
Thank you.
Again, good morning. My name is Bianca Lopez. I don't know if my comments fit in this area. We're talking about rules and regulations, and I want to share a little bit about what's in our SERP recommendations and some concerns that we've seen that are lacking between interagency relationships and communication. Just as an example, ag burn permits, the air district doesn't ensure that these piles are actually checked before they are burned. And often we smell a lot of chemicals with that smell. And then often the air district takes about 2 hours to respond to a air complaint. And those are for here in Stanislaus County. It's taken 2 hours for an air complaint investigator to come out from Modesto to Waterford. By the time they come out, same as for Riverbank, by the time they come out, that smell has either been taken away by the wind, or we get to say, yeah, we can smell it, but we can't find it after a search of maybe 20 minutes. That is inadequate, and it does us a disservice. Our community emission reduction plan also requires, or it doesn't require, I mean, at some point we're going to start demanding some of these things, right? Interagency communication, for example, the fire department, supposedly the air district sends the fire department a list of proposed or approved ag burns. But we know that, for example, in Riverbank, there was a rice farmer who burned on a Saturday without a permit. It was a big fire. Several of us called it in. Some of them called it into the fire department. The fire department was on site, but they did not notify the air district. That was a violation of ag burning. To mention some of the issues with the lack of communication there. We'd like to see Clean Cars program to advance the year where I think currently if you have a car from 2006, you can retire it to get and participate part of those incentives to get a clean vehicle. We'd like to see that number increase. 2006 is quite old, but so is 2010, right? That's many years. And a lot of us are looking for that date to increase. One of the issues that we've had with permitting is, for example, in Riverbank, Amethyst was approved after the Planning Commission had rejected the approval of this permit. Then they appealed to the city council. The city council approved it, and then the air district did not want to host a community meeting, a public hearing, because supposedly the facility wasn't going to emit enough toxic material into our air. And so it didn't meet that requirement. So we hosted one, and then you guys decided to finally come out because we were going to host one for you.
Thank you.
So,
Bianca,
let me just finish real
that's your
quick.
three. Bianca, that's
Yeah,
your
I know.
3 minutes. Thank you.
I understand.
Thank
Just
you
real
for your
quick,
comments.
You did not take
Thank
into
you.
consideration.
Thank you for
the
your comments,
cumulative
Bianca.
impacts. There's 90 tanker trucks that were going to come down to that community. The air
Thank you
district
for your
doesn't
comments, Bianca.
take into consideration cumulative impacts.
Thank you, Modesto. Do you have any additional comments?
No further comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Fresno, do we have any commenters on Fresno? Seeing one coming up. Thank you.
I'll make this fast. Manuel Cunha, Nisi Firm. No way are we accepting that application. Samir, we need to deny it. John, you need to step up to the plate here on this one. But Emily, from the ag industry, and at least from agriculture, you have been tremendous to work with us and talk about the CMPs, and hate to see you go, but you have some great endeavors with your family, and that's great. But you're just a super person who really understand a very complex, Madam Chair, and did a great job, even with the CAC and those activities that she has presented, her and John, all the time. And thank you for everything you've done. And just, Madam Chair, we don't ag burn anymore. That's been outruled. We do have some fires, but they're started by arsonist type activities of people throwing garbage onto a onto a pile that's getting ready to chip, and they burn it. We've had some of those type of activities, but we no longer burn into San Joaquin Valley. Agriculture does not, only if it's an arsonist thing. But again, Emily, this is about you. Thank you so much again. And Madam Chair, thank you for the time.
Thank you for your comments, Manuel. We have another comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Kevin Abernathy with Milk Producers Council and Dairy Cares. Emily, thank you. As the past chair of CAC and all the things that I've worked with you on here at the district over the years, again, greatly, humbly appreciate everything that you've done. And to the board, as far as on the agenda item, just really want to highlight the fact that if we could get the governor to do an executive order on mandating funding, because when I see the numbers of $7.2 billion in partnership dollars that have gotten the emission reductions that this district has had the vision to help get through incentive programs, And now that we see those pots of dollars that are absolutely non-existent at the state level and even the reduction at the federal level. But I will tell you, and I got to hand it to that side of the building, there's been some very intimate conversations that we've been having looking at new ideas and concepts to go after new pots of money or existing pots of money so we can continue to do what we've been doing for decades here in the Central Valley. And that's cleaning up the air through incentive programs, voluntary incentive programs that has a direct benefit to all of us in public health. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Kevin.
Thank you. Any other public comments in Fresno? Seeing none and none online.
None online. Okay, thank you. Again, not an action item, and we will move on to item 10, which is a verbal report on state advocacy efforts surrounding the district's air quality budget priorities.
All right. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Just going to provide a brief update on some of our advocacy efforts at the state level. Let's see here. Mark Montalongo, Director of Policy and Government Affairs. Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you all. The district has a long history of developing and implementing air quality strategies with plans achieving significant emission reductions. Our stationary source regulations since the 1990s have achieved over a 94% reduction in NOx emissions, which is one of the primary drivers of ozone and PM 2.5. Our incentive programs are recognized as a gold standard nationally and throughout the state for achieving emission reductions. That large number there on that slide, $7.2 billion in public-private partnership for voluntary incentive programs, which is a huge benefit to improving air quality and public health here in the San Joaquin Valley. While significant air quality progress has been made, over 80% of the NOx emissions in the valley are from mobile sources. In order to meet current air quality mandates, strong state support is needed in this area. At the beginning of each year, your board approves the district's legislative mandate that helps guide our advocacy efforts in support of this mission. This is where a lot of the real work comes in, with the goal of bringing resources to the valley, providing education regarding valley air quality challenges, our efforts to reduce pollution, the progress that's been made, and the need to meet stringent air quality mandates. Advocating for state resources to assist in reducing pollution and improving public health, while prioritizing areas with the greatest air quality challenges and underserved communities. Since December of last year, and on an ongoing basis, the district has conducted meetings with key legislators, our Valley delegation, committee staff regarding the resources needed in order to improve air quality and public health in the Valley. These efforts have been strongly supported with Valley coalitions of diverse stakeholders, such as agricultural organizations, community-based organizations, and Valley counties and other members that the district is a part of, such as the Regional Policy Council and more. Turn it over to Samir here.
Thank you, Mark. Wanted to talk really about where you can put that slide back on, James. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, where the conversation is today in the budget process, the state budget process. I know many of you are following this very closely. We're really at the last sort of stage of the legislative session as a whole. Overall, essentially the state budget's in place, but for some major kind of end of session things that are going on. For us, this major area is the cap and trade, or what's now called the cap and invest reauthorization. This is a very important policy area for the state. There's a lot of nexus to what we do here in the San Joaquin Valley, particularly on the funding side of the equation with this program. And we've been really successful in the past in really making the case that the Valley should be receiving these funds that are generated through this program to address our air quality challenge. We've been advocating for many years to ensure that programs like Farmer, as one example, are funded through these efforts. So we've been keeping a very close eye on this process and trying to make sure and really just figure out, how in the context of this reauthorization, we make sure that the priorities are put in place, and that in this process, we hopefully as a region, along with other regions that have air quality challenges, are able to see some sort of return or benefit, from the program by way of clean air investments, as Mark just mentioned. Just to give you a quick recap, we've been successful in securing a little bit over $2 billion so far in Valley projects, about 20% of the statewide total, which is from a population perspective, certainly more than our region has, although I do have to note that a lot of the economic activity does happen in this region. So I think certainly from an equity perspective, we do demand, really that these funds are returned, back to the region to help us with the challenges that we have here. The current program, the reason this is a really hot topic in Sacramento right now is that it's authorized through 2030. So it's a couple of years away down the road, but it is a very tricky program. There's a lot of implications. It's got a lot of layers to it in terms of the value that it provides, the policy mechanisms, the different regulatory components that come out of the program. And so I think because of, just to give you one example about the importance of the reauthorization, because of really the current uncertainty around where the program goes from here, you're already seeing, I think a lot of folks are basically arguing that you're seeing some pretty significantly declining revenues, for example, in the program, due to that sort of, I would call it, market uncertainty around what the future of this program holds. There's a couple of recent auctions. There's quarterly auctions that are part of this process that have seen some pretty significant reductions in revenues through those auctions. There's one that I think is either here, like right now, like this, in the very short term, that will provide another indicator as to where the that trend is. And so there's just a very, very active discussion going on in the legislature and with the governor's office between all of them about, what the future of this program looks like. And hopefully, I think some general interest we're seeing in some what was being called sort of early reauthorization, but not trying to keep kicking the can down the road in terms of where the future of this program is. I can tell you that affordability, general affordability concerns throughout the state, that's really percolated into Sacramento discussions in a lot of different ways. I think everybody here sees just what's happening around us in terms of utility rates, gas prices, inflation, just general impacts that residents are facing throughout the state. And so I think there's a lot of interesting conversations that I think are happening around, how do we make sure that all of these state programs are positioned to keep moving forward, but in a way that acknowledges the real concerns that are being brought into those conversations. So there is a very active discussion. We're really a couple of weeks away. At the end of the day, things do have to happen here basically in a couple of weeks in terms of where the legislature and then ultimately the governor land with, for example, this particular piece of legislation. So we thought it was a good idea to make sure, the board, was just brought to speed on some of the work that's going on to make sure that in this conversation, clean air priorities are not lost and forgotten. So our platform does, specifically speak to this. And so we have been actively working to push for different expenditures. One of the things that we've been arguing, and I think to really good effect, because there's a large coalition of folks that I think are really interested in making sure that this happens, which is when you have limited resources, as you see in the state budget, we're in a deficit mode. It's many billions of dollars of deficit, which is why a lot of these clean air priorities were not reflected in the budget deals that were cut a little bit over a month ago, and are now being discussed in the context of cap and trade. In a deficit mode, what I think everybody should be interested in is cost-effective expenditure, of different funds that are available. What are the programs that are providing the biggest bang for the buck, that are reducing air pollution, reducing greenhouse gases, and make sure that, we're investing in the things that make the most sense. So we've been really putting data together on, for example, the farmer program, the community air protection program, significant reductions that are being achieved. For example, the LAO, the Legislative Analyst Office, has come out with data that shows that these are amongst the top 3 most cost-effective programs that the state could invest in. Really just providing that information and pushing for those priorities, alternatives to open burning, supporting that transition away from open burning, as was mentioned earlier, so that we make sure that that's a successful transition. I just want to remind everybody here that as the beginning of this year is really when the final requirements were put in place for that transition away from open burning. And we all know that there's significant challenges in the ag space right now for a variety of reasons, whether it's water, crop changing dynamics, and just a lot of orchards and vineyards that are either being pulled or now in many cases even abandoned in cases where there really is no funding or other resource to support dealing with that. So we're pushing for those funding priorities. Just want to recap the requests that we've been actively in conversations with the legislature. The farmer program is one that is very important and is the most cost-effective program out there. You're taking old diesel equipment and you're replacing it with a over 95% reduction in pollution. With newer tractors, it's a cost share program. It's got priority for smaller farmers. So the board's been very active in tweaking this program in a way that really addresses, I think, sort of every policy area that has been raised, through many conversations in the past. We're asking for $200 million per year in that program as a multi-year program. We currently have $700 million worth of projects in the queue, so much so that we recently had to close the application portal to stop taking applications because we're just so deep into the number of applications that we have that we wanted to make sure that we're able to work through the ones that we have. It's going to take some time, again, because we're not sure where the funding is going to be, coming out of this budget. But that's certainly, a lot of folks in the ag sector are certainly interested in understanding, where the future of this program lies with that demand that we have there. Alternatives to burning, we're asking for $75 million per year to keep that transition moving successfully and support different alternatives. Chipping is one, but there's others that have also emerged. The community air protection program, we've worked very closely with community organizations, residents throughout the valley, the business community, to launch over several years now this program. It keeps improving over time. There's a lot of ongoing efforts. You've heard even from the earlier comments, some of the efforts that are going on in different parts of the valley. So we want to make sure we're able to continue those efforts and keep uplifting, some of the priorities, and then invest in actually trying to address those priorities through, this program is very region specific and has a lot of cost-effective emissions reductions available through it. The Clean Cars for All program, I know the board's been very supportive of that program. It just direct benefit to residents at $100 million per year statewide, so that we can then get a big chunk of that here to the valley to keep supporting that program. And then, as I mentioned before, just wanted to note that the budget that was adopted in June, obviously there's still trailer bills and this the cap and trade program, cap and invest, I should say. That part's still not yet dealt with in the legislature, but as of now, there's no funding allocated to these programs in the state budget, which is really unfortunate because I think these are all of the highest value to residents and from a cost effectiveness perspective. So the advocacy continues. Mark and I were actually there earlier this week and met with a number of folks to discuss, how we make sure in the final legislative process here, that we're making sure that those are prioritized. So we appreciate the board's work on this. We know that you also engage with the Valley delegation and other stakeholders. So I think we'll need to make a really good, strong push here at the very end to ensure that hopefully some of these programs at least are funded in the final detailed expenditure plan that the legislature comes up with. So with that, I see one question at least on the board here. I'll turn it back to you, Chair and board members, for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Samir. Supervisor Mendez.
Well, first, I always make comments. He's asking us a question or a comment. I have to commend, Mark, you took this on, and I know, Samir and the staff, this is probably one of the most important things we do. And then the problem is we have to go to this insane asylum in Sacramento and lobby for things that work, which in that insane asylum, they don't like to fund things that work. They like to continue to throw money at things that do not work. So I want to commend you guys and thank you for taking this on. Mark comes from a great Sanger family. Very, very good and very successful people in his family. And I'm glad he came to work for us, and I'm glad he took this on.
Thank you. Supervisor Chiesa.
Thank you very much. I always hate following Buddy. And I would tell you that, there's a whole host of reasons the boards have been successful since 1980. Every time I look at the reductions that we've had, but the bottom line is changing habits have helped us. There's a lot of reasons, but having the incentive money to convert out of ag burning and large investments is really where we found our success. And so I know it's down to the wire, but it's very important that as board members that we all communicate with our local elected officials, because I'm just not sure they're as committed to the renewal of cap and trade or cap and invest as we are. And when Samir calls or Mark calls and tells you to make that call, we need to make it and talk about what Buddy just pointed. It's a successful program, and we're out begging for money to do great work. We're a public health agency, and I think the state should recognize that with ongoing funding. So that was just a statement, and I appreciate everyone's diligence on that.
Okay. Councilmember Escutia Bratton.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Samir and Mark, for your presentation. I know I've seen firsthand how diligent and how assertive and how hard you advocate for these funding for our community. So thank you for that. In regards to the areas that you covered, with seeking those funding requests, will any of those, if received, will any of those funding dollars be directed to our clean air purifier program that we have? Are we likely to see that again this year? And as well as, will some of that money be directed to our AB 617 community programs?
Through the chair, thank you. Great questions. We do hope that through the community air protection program, that's the $300 million incentive request. We've actually been able to fund air purifiers through that program, and as part of broadening the reach of those funds, we're actually at a pivotal moment in that program where we're taking the lessons learned in those originally selected communities, of which there were 4, and kind of broadening that out to see if those funds can be used even in more value-wide ways. And we've actually done a lot of things. The board's taken many actions, and so that actually is a source of funding potentially for the air purifiers. And so I think we need to see that renewed, and then also as part of our spending plans, we can look at that, and that's certainly an opportunity for that. But we also look for other funding sources too, because we actually were able to receive a few other grants in the past that can also support that effort. But that's one area for that. And I think I might answer the second question, which I think is, I don't think we threw AB 617 on the slide itself, but basically that is the pot of funding that supports that ongoing work in communities throughout the valley through the AB 617 program. So it is covered by that request. We just need to make sure, it's kind of a shame because that mandate is there. It's an ongoing mandate, but it seems like every year, we basically have to go to Sacramento to fight for funding to support it. And so one of the conversations that actually is happening is there a way to continuously fund the program, so that we're not having to do that every year.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, thank you again. I am going to assume that you do come from a good family because I'm going to take Supervisor Mendez's word on that. With that, thank you again. And Samir, thank you. I'm just now being immersed in air quality and what have you, but I do know that there is a common interest that the public agencies and private sector certainly have. When you put them on a Venn diagram, I'm sure you'll see the common interest that they have. And I think this agency has done a great job in building those partnerships with the private sector. It would be a shame for us to roll back and regress without the funding that's needed in order for us to continue to promote these programs. And in cases they're aggressive, But to bring on the private sector, mainly ag, to come along and incentivize them, that's huge. So to Supervisor Mendez's point is sometimes policies that work aren't really recognized. So it's important for us to continue to showcase, continue to support, and more importantly, continue to advocate for these partnerships and bring our private sector folks along so that we can continue to advocate it. I know that we form a good group in certain councils that we serve on, but more importantly, I think it's always good to showcase that partnership between the public agencies and the public sector. That's all I wanted to bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor McCauley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on some of those comments. I think earlier, or actually throughout the meeting, we've heard a lot of passion in public comment. So I just want to encourage those that are out there listening that, extending opportunities to replace vehicles from 2006 to 2010, is largely contingent upon exactly what we're talking about right now, which is funding. So I hope that some of that passion will find its way to, our state legislators who are really making these decisions around, what we're able to accomplish here at the Air District. We would love to replace, every dirty car, every dirty tractor that's out there, but, we are limited and constrained by, some of our funding that we do incur. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay. I don't see any other questions or comments from board members. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Fresno has a public commenter coming up to the mic.
You have to sit in the very furthest corner of the room, huh? You wouldn't have to run if you didn't do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, his steps.
Yes, I will. Again, Manuel Cunha-Nice Farmers. First, I want to acknowledge the board's movement in 2008 and 2004, the efforts for the Ag ICE program, funding of the engines, replacement of dirty diesels with electric and cleaner diesels, and fast forward to 2008, the tractor voluntary program. Right now, Dr. Pacheco Warner, for CARB, the waivers have been pulled, and there's a lot of concern. But agriculture here, the district just said 7,000 tractors are in the queue, which is equated to about maybe 5 tons per day of NOx reductions. It could happen at the most cost-effective piece of equipment in the country to be replaced. Number 2 is that to take away the funding from the rural communities, and that's where it's at, and put it in areas like cap and trade, taking cap and trade and taking those monies away, putting it into CAL FIRE of Los Angeles, putting it into the high-speed rail because the federal government pulled their funds is an absolute destruction to human and rural community health. The other thing I want to bring forward is that our concern in agriculture is we've been there, voluntarily, continually improving the air quality. Our farmers are out there. Yesterday I had a call, Samir, with Ana Cavallero, Senator, a great half an hour call as I headed toward Avenel. In that discussion, her main point that I brought was the farmer program. And her comment back to me, we talked for about a half an hour, was that she is going to fight for everything. And then mentioning the ag chairwoman, Soria, Esmeralda Soria, on the ag assembly side, how she has been working and asking her to work with her, but also making the point to the senator was the Speaker of the House or Speaker of the Assembly, Robert Rivas. How could, and we have to make this happen. If any funding needs to happen is that, and not steal from those programs. But yet we have 7,000 tractors, and we can help the waiver issue for this state, statewide with agriculture machinery. As Samir and some others and us talked about, we can have the state have an out to keep things going in a positive direction. But when you yank us around like this, just like with Ag Burn, they took all the money away, a great program, and now they expect the farmers to do it all by themselves, and they can't. So again, I want to thank the staff entirely for all the work that you have done going to Sacramento continuously, the entire staff and the board, for you believing in agriculture, for us doing what we have been doing, and we're going to continue. no matter what's happening in DC, we're going to keep doing the right thing for this valley, but we have to have those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you. Are there any additional commenters in Fresno? Seeing none. Bakersfield, do you have any commenters?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment?
We have one public comment here in Modesto.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Bianca Lopez. I just also would like to advocate and support the advocacy work presented here by the staff. The most cost-effective thing to do is to prioritize public health, not business. We can start off by doing land back projects and become better stewards of our land. Practices like monoculture are really hurting our communities, our soil, our water, and our air. We'd like to see more of this funding to actually go to small businesses, not big businesses. I'm still waiting for Samir's call back a year ago to tell me about what are those small businesses or the comparison of small businesses and big businesses, people of color who are receiving these incentives. Funding for box fans, N95 masks, or nonprofits can't find funds for N95 masks, and those have been very much asked for from the communities. We have the Department of Pesticide Regulation who's not providing those. Our county ag commissioner will not provide those either, even though we know that farm workers are in desperate need of them. They are wanting to rely on the farmers to give those to the farm workers, and we know that that doesn't happen all the time. We are happy to continue to work through the community air protection programs and receive funding so that we can do community outreach and awareness. We'd like to see some fundings to help farmers with dust mitigation. Valley fever has actually increased 66% in Stanislaus County, and that increase is much higher in San Joaquin County this last year, I think, is the public health report. If you go outside, the sky is gray. We are seeing almonds being harvested right now, and it is ridiculous. N95 masks and community awareness needs to be prioritized during these times. We'd also like to see more of the clean air rooms to be increased and more outreach and less restrictions on who can receive those. We'd like to see more staff in the air complaints department, investigators that come out to the field. As I mentioned earlier, it takes too long for investigators to come out to the field when we make an air complaint report. We have 16 staff currently under that department that we share amongst the 3 counties here, Stanislaus, Merced, and San Joaquin. And that increasing funding for staff to be able to grow to do the outreach or to actually do the investigations would be very helpful, and to reduce the time that it takes for them to come out to see. But we must prioritize health, public health, and not business. We need to make some of these programs mandatory, not voluntary. And to Mr. Cunha, yes, you are still doing ag burning in this region.
Thank you, Bianca.
Modesto, do you have any additional comments?
No additional comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Seeing none online.
Okay, we will move on to item 11, which is the agenda for our October 2025 Governing Board study session for educational and strategic planning purposes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just get Jamie working her way up here. We'll get my notes up. Yeah, so really the purpose of this item is to share with the board and the public some of the topical areas that we hope to be working on in preparation for the upcoming October study session. To set the date for that, which is outlined here in the item, is October 15th and 16th. Just want to give you kind of a quick summary of the meeting, the purpose of the meeting. It is a bit more extensive in terms of time than the typical governing board meeting. It's an opportunity for the board to really just have conversations about some items of strategic interest to the board, a little bit more casual environment to engage with stakeholders and to brainstorm different things that are in front of the board, basically ways for the board to continue moving forward our our public health mission. In the past, we've really had some great discussions at these meetings. It's helped to move the ball forward on a variety of issues. As you'll see, I'm going to walk through the agenda here just really quickly. It's really a good opportunity for also engaging with state and federal partners on a variety of topics. So we hope to see that happen again this year. It's going to be located here in Madera County at the Bass Lake location, which is a location that we've actually done a number of meetings in the past. It's worked really well, just logistically in terms of holding this meeting. I'm going to go through the topics really quick and just note that as we work on these different items, and we'll see what other conversations happen today in terms of the agenda, not all of these will necessarily be on the agenda in October. I think that one of the comments we've also heard in the past is, hey, these topics are so great to talk about that let's see if we can reduce that list just a little bit so we have a bit more time to actually do deeper dives in some of the topics. So I think we have a pretty bold list that we laid out here today. So I don't know that we'll actually get through all of these. We can do some of these in future agendas as well. And if there's other items, we can take those into account as well as we talk about that today. But I want to just go through just a quick recap of what's in the agenda here. I won't spend too much time on each individual item, and then just leave room for any discussion on this. The Healthier Living Schools program, it's been a little while since we've talked about that with the board in terms of where the program has been and where do we want to see it keep going into the future, especially taking into account where the school districts themselves are and where the tools are, and making sure that we're responsive to the needs of the districts, the parents, the students, and make sure we're in a good place with that. We talked today, item number 2 on the list within the item here is the Clean Air Act implementation challenges and opportunities. I think within a couple of months, we'll know even more about where things are with the state implementation plans, with attainment. EPA and CARB are typically a part of these meetings, so we'll see how that interaction may also support those conversations, and just to keep brainstorming. What do we do in response to some of the mobile source challenges? How do we look at some of the newer standards and make sure that we're exhausting our efforts to try to meet those different standards? Item number 3, this is an area that the board has been very interested in the past, and we want to continue building on that interest, particularly in light of the changes that happen every year when it comes to alternative fuels. It's everything here, potentially from electric technology to hydrogen to renewable natural gas, other biofuels. What role do all of these different fuels play in the near term, midterm, long term? I envision in this item, along with the other items, when we can bring in outside speakers to help educate the board and the public on where these different things are. For example, the ARCHES initiative in California, the hydrogen fuel production initiative is one that the last couple of years we've had folks come in and update the board on where that is just one example. So these are areas that are definitely of interest to the board and to the public. The next item on the list, item 4, entitled Ag Land Transitions, Groundwater Management, and Air Quality. This is one that the board has also been interested in for several years, to really understand the nexus between the various changes that are happening in Valley agriculture. SGMA is a big part of that. Last week, we talked about this at the study session. That was about 3 years ago. A lot's happened in 3 years, I think, with SGMA implementation. There's a lot of new challenges that have, or I would say growing challenges within Valley agriculture beyond just SGMA that I think could also be a part of the conversation, really with an eye towards how do we partner with everybody from USDA to obviously Valley agriculture, other stakeholders on addressing some of the challenges, even things like the comment that was raised earlier around how do we support growers with some of the potential dust impacts that may be happening either in the fields or with some of the fallowing that's going on. So there's a variety of areas that can be, I think, tackled with this item, but undoubtedly something of strong interest to the region. An item 5 would focus on the incentive funding strategy. I think we'll see what happens here with the state budget. We're still fighting really hard on the federal side as well for some of the key programs that we pass down through the federal funds. I think depending on how all that goes, even irrespective of that, it is important to keep talking about the incentive funding strategy. How do we really focus our funds in ways that protect public health, cost effectively reduce emissions, and are as responsive as possible to those evolving dynamics. As promised, on the list here is an update on wildfire prevention and response strategy and coordination. This is an area that keeps evolving. A great place to talk to our state federal partners, answer some of the questions that came up today. I think talk about sheep and goats would be great as part of updating our strategy and making sure we're integrating every one of these great ideas into the work that we do. And I'd like to add a little bit even more of a local partnership angle as well, to maybe highlight some of the work that's going on with some of the councils and see if there's more updates on that and how we can be supportive basically of those efforts. And then item 7 on the list is really it's again could be fairly broad, but it's focused on a goal that the board has had for some time, which is really trying to figure out how to effectively communicate a very complicated air quality story for the region. One that obviously a lot of challenges when it comes to air quality for all the reasons that you heard earlier throughout the meeting, but also a story of progress that's being made. When you reduce air pollution in collaboration with business, with agriculture, with residents who are asked to, for example, not burn, and do other activities, you really do have to point to progress that makes. Especially as we go out there and look for more money and ask businesses to do more with our regulations and other strategies that we're working on. So that story is complicated, and there are a lot of challenges that are left. It's really important because I think generally there's an interest in the valley and growing the valley, growing it economically, developing our communities, but also being very, very clear-eyed about the goal of reducing air pollution and improving public health. And so there's a lot of different spaces where these conversations can happen, and we want to be proactive and avoid being reactive when there's work going on in these different spaces. So I think that would be a good brainstorming of how to keep that kind of existing goal moving forward in a constructive way. There's a couple of other items on the list here. I won't go through those in detail, but I think the board's always been interested in understanding where technology is going to keep driving down cost and improve efficiency and customer service. There's certainly a lot of work in that area. The work culture is very important to what we do here. STAR, that it's a service-oriented work culture. It's an empowerment work culture. And so we do brainstorm that and how to keep it fresh, how to keep it relevant, as the environment continues to evolve, just generally speaking. So I think that's always a great item to have. And then, of course, having Carbon EPA, having updates from them, as well as a representative from the Employees Association, just having some of our key partners there at the table. We're still trying to figure out exactly how that looks like, leading to October, but it's definitely something that's been of value in prior meetings. So with that, Chair, it's an opportunity certainly for any other ideas or other conversation related to this to be had, and we'll turn it back over to you.
Sure. It'll be a very robust agenda, and all of these topics are much needed to discuss. So we'll let you guys work on prioritizing that. Supervisor McCauley?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to let the board know I'm very excited to have everybody up the hill, up to Bass Lake. Should be a great event. I was just texting with Samir about a local organization called Happy Goat. They do a lot of targeted grazing.
I was going to ask, are we going to have some goats there?
Yeah, they also have a nice little farm up there with a restaurant. So perhaps they might even be able to come and cater the event or something like that. Could be a cool. You might
eat the goats.
You might or might not. I don't know. And then also, I know we had some discussion from Supervisor Pereira about roadside vegetation fires. We do a great project in Madera County every year. I think it's like a 7-mile prescribed burn on the east side of 41, which really has prevented just countless fires over the last 5 years since we implemented it. Air District is a wonderful partner in making sure that project continues. But in Madera County, we're actually working with our Cattlemen's Association on kind of a pilot program or we're testing out some different chemicals to keep the vegetation down on the roadside. So we've got, I want to say 7 or 8 different plots where we're trying some different things. Might make for an interesting discussion. As we're looking to be impactful, despite a lack of funding moving forward, I think it's important we're looking to different avenues that maybe aren't necessarily funding, but how can we develop best practices for local jurisdictions to help address these issues as well. And I think that fits very well in that nexus. So I just wanted to throw that out there to the benefit of the board. But again, really, really looking forward to seeing everybody up in Bass Lake.
Thank you. Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, looking forward. I mean, that's a great venue. I'm glad we're going back. Very happy that we are. I'd like to be included when you do this Sigma item as you're planning it. I'd like to be included in that. I've seen different organizations try to do, Sigma stuff, and some of the panelists they have, it's like, that guy doesn't know nothing. What do you there? So anyway, just,
so noted.
Let me know.
Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yes, 2 things. One, and I don't mean to mess up all of your agenda, but if you could move the star item to in the first day rather than the second day, because I just feel like sometimes my brain is just dead by that point. And I think the stories people tell are so sweet. And so I want my brain to sort of be functioning when I listen to them.
Start off on a positive note.
Yes, exactly. So if that's possible, please. And then the other one, I saw the description around the Clean Air Act implementation challenges and opportunities. And I was just wondering if we could have some intentional time to talk about what's next on the ozone attainment, given the latest news on that piece. And I'm sure you'll have more on what's next on that by then too, as I know you all are having ongoing conversations with the EPA, but I think it's important that we kind of brainstorm or at least know what intentionality we're bringing to that. Thank you.
Supervisor Couch. All by your lonesome.
Morning.
Hi.
I don't know that yes, I'm all alone here. Well, staff is here and a couple people in the audience. It might be a good idea to brief the board on our second supplemental recirculated environmental impact report for oil and gas permitting. I don't know if the study session is a good time or if it's just maybe a subsequent regular meeting. And I really hope we keep the item with CARB and the federal EPA on the agenda because, and I hope we get some people from those organizations or so entities there that we can speak to. Thank you.
So noted. Thank you. Okay. No other comments or questions from board members? Is there any public comment on this item?
Are there any members of the public in Bakersfield that would like to comment?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item?
He stood up, but then he sat back down. Okay.
Seeing none and none on. Oh, we do have one coming up to the podium.
You're lucky she's chairing a meeting.
Are you his proxy?
I'll make this quick. In conversation, Kevin, with Milk Producers Council, Dairy Cares, Madam Chair, I will say that we've had a lot of interesting discussions behind the scenes and working on this agenda. Buddy, to your point, Supervisor, we've got a pretty good host of very intellectual folks on certain, especially when it comes to Sigma. Jeffrey, that you know very well, has been a part of that conversation. But ultimately, as what was brought up in the discussion, is the standpoint that we're now getting into kind of a mature standpoint of what Sigma and the actual impacts that it's having on farmers. And unfortunately, we've got a bunch of appointed people making rules and decisions where you folks, for the most part, are all elected officials that have to come back to us, the constituents. I'll tell you what, that dog's not hunting right now. So I think it's extremely timely that we have this conversation to help educate you on what we're hearing from our agricultural communities, what you're hearing from your constituents, because ultimately Sacramento needs to understand the dilemma that we're under at this point. So want to fully support what Samir and staff is putting together. And as always, we have a very robust discussion wherever we have the study agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
No more public
No
comment.
further comments and none online.
And this is not an action item, so we will move on to item 12, which is to appoint the ad hoc governing board subcommittee to nominate candidates for the 2026 governing board chair and vice chair.
I'll give a quick presentation on this item and turn over to you to help get the subcommittee formed here. The governing board has adopted an officer selection policy, which is attached to the item. And as a reminder, under that policy, the chair and the vice chair are selected annually by the board to serve on a calendar year basis. A board member may be nominated under that policy to serve as the chair or vice chair for no more than 2 consecutive years. So there is an ability, and as a reminder, the current chair and current vice chair are in your first year under that. There's an ad hoc subcommittee that's a part of the officer selection policy. It's formed here by you, the chair, and with board input to nominate candidates for the upcoming 2026 board chair and vice chair role. There's some criteria that were established in the policy as to the makeup of the that subcommittee, and I'll just go through those really quick here. There will be 2 members from each region. And then, by the way, 6 total members on the subcommittee. So 2 members from each region. So 3 regions, times 2, that's 6.
Thanks.
Just doing some math here on the fly. Your 95 years total was a lot more impressive than my 3 times 2, I have to say, Madam Chair. There's 3 county supervisors within the what I just said. There's 3 county supervisors, 2 city representatives, and 1 of the governor appointees. So that would be the other criteria to be met. As a reminder, last year we had Supervisor Chiesa, Supervisor Rickman, Supervisor Shuklian, Mayor Preciado, Vice Mayor Wynn, and Dr. Sheriffs were on the subcommittee last year. So I think another tradition might be to see if others may be willing to serve on the subcommittee. There are part of the process also in the policy is to, as you think about the chair and the vice chair role, we did itemize what some of the upcoming priorities are in the coming year, and as part of thinking about those roles, just making sure that you are all considering those different issues, the challenges, and having folks that you thought would best help move the board along on those different issues. I'm not going to go through them here in detail, but they are in the item, and happy to go through some of those as needed as part of the subcommittee discussion here. So with that, if anybody forgot the list of members that I mentioned earlier that were on the subcommittee last year, let me know. I'm happy to go through that list of names again. And I'll turn it back to you. I think that the chair has traditionally served in the past, although it's not in the policy. So certainly up to the board as to who you may want to see on that subcommittee. So I'll turn it back to you to do the, maybe hand raising or whatever process you want to use to.
Or like hand lifting.
Yeah.
So tell me again, the time commitment, just so people know.
So I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's typically 1 meeting.
Yep.
Probably about an hour or so long. So time commitment is not large, and we work with you to get that scheduled. It could be shorter.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, very, very quick. And then I'll just go through the names again. It's Supervisor Chiesa, Supervisor Rickman, Supervisor Shuklian, Mayor Preciado, Vice Mayor Wynn, and Dr. Sheriffs were the last members last year.
So Supervisor Pereira was not on that last time.
Yeah.
Well, there's one.
Can I speak for a second?
Absolutely.
by board action, we don't have to do this. I'm just throwing this out to the board. I mean, if Mr. McCauley wants to stay on as vice chair, and obviously we got a great chair, we can make action today to suspend doing this and continue with what we've got. This is not a have to deal.
Right.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, this was not agendized. That's a voting item.
But it can be.
Can we take consensus? or-
Administrative.
What's that?
It's administrative.
Okay.
It's internally administrative, so you can take action. It's administrative, so you can do this.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Mendez with a second by Pereira. Okay. And that is to not have this committee and to leave myself as chair and Supervisor McCauley as vice chair for the next year. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you.
Oh. We're good.
Okay, I'll call for the roll. Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Silence.
thank you.
Oh,
Ms. Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis, Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
I'm thinking, yes.
Ms. Schicklin.
I'm thinking, yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Motion passes. You know, and I was gonna note at the end of this meeting that besides the consent calendar, we had no action items, but now I can't say that because we just had an action item. Oh, well.
I was gonna say.
No, I know. I'm just, okay. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. So our next item is a verbal report on California Air Resources Board activities.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I wanted to follow up on Mr. Cunha's comment on the during the beginning public comment session on the battery issue, because I did follow up with CARB and they let me know that the Office of the State Fire Marshal did host a battery energy storage system fire safety symposium last month in Sacramento, and actually our very own Dustin Hale Unit Fire Chief from Fresno County Fire was part of one of the discussions on emergency response. So given that, and the fact that that was not known to any of us, I did say that, I'm happy to be a part of anything that brings further awareness on what the outcome of the symposium was and how we can further bring broader local awareness about that. So, but I did want to just let you know that there is something ongoing and I did follow up on it. So thank you. And then I think everything else has already been said. So I look forward to just continuing to work with the board and be a liaison as much as possible at the state. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Executive Director's report or comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of quick things. I did want to note, and it's in the agenda, and I think everybody's aware of this, but just for to make sure nobody shows up here by accident in September. There will not be a September board meeting due to the timing of there's several major conflicts with board members that impacted ability to have that meeting. So that has been canceled. There is no meeting in September. Wanted to also note that in June on the 24th and 25th, I wanted to acknowledge Supervisor McCauley for coming out to DC with a couple of us to meet with legislators and EPA to keep pushing the board's federal legislative priorities, particularly in the budget, but also making sure that there's solutions in place, as we keep navigating our way through the Clean Air Act implementation side of things. So that was I thought a productive meeting. Just wanted to again thank Supervisor for taking quite a bit of time to be a part of that. There also is an upcoming trip to DC by the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council, of which we're a part of, and several board members are also a part of that through their respective roles within the metropolitan planning organization. So that is just something put out there on just for the radar, and have a future kind of update on that. That's the week of September 8th. Wanted to thank the some of the stakeholders here from agriculture. Manuel's still here. And there was a tour that was organized in the recent past here to highlight some of the work that's going on in Valley agriculture. It was really specifically meant for the federal side of things, so EPA and USDA was also a part of that. I want to acknowledge them as well, to really just highlight some of those efforts, the tractor replacement program, the conservation management practices, and some, talking about some of the challenges that we just talked about today. So I want to appreciate them for organizing that and including us, inviting us to be a part of that. And then want to note that the Drive Clean San Joaquin rebate program is up and running. So please let your constituents know. It's available. There is funding in the program for rebates for electric and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. So that was great to have that opportunity for residents. And then lastly, just wanted to recognize outgoing, I forget her exact title, basically the planning director essentially for Kern County, Lorelei Oviat, who it was in that role for decades, and just played a large role in a lot of Kern County's very complex, often kind of planning issues down there, and somebody that we talked to quite a bit over the years. Just want to recognize her for her service to the county and to the valley as a whole, and just wish her a happy retirement. Although I hear that she's going to continue working really hard even after officially being retired.
All right, thank you. Governing board member comments or final words of wisdom? Supervisor McCauley.
Yeah, just really quickly, wanted to thank the chair and the board for the opportunity to travel to DC and advocate on behalf of the Central Valley. Really a great opportunity to travel with some of the smartest people I've met. That's Samir, Morgan, Mark, even you, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. While it was hot, I think like unbearably hot, I think it helped grow my appreciation for the weather here in the Central Valley.
Dry
If that could be had. Yeah, it's definitely different. So, but yeah, just thanks again. It's just a great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Supervisor Mendez.
Yeah, I just want to talk. I had a F-35 crash on one of my ranches about getting close to a month ago.
Not the first time, is it?
Actually, on mine it is.
Oh, okay.
But I seen the last one.
Okay.
Actually seen it crash. Anyway, not F-35. That was an F-18. But the Department of the Navy has removed it. Now they're doing the environmental cleanup. It's kind of an interesting deal because it skipped across a field and ended up upright. And then I sent Samir a picture of a plane burning. And it was very black smoke. So anyway, just wanted to say and the Navy and their defense contractors been very cooperative.
Thank you. All right, Supervisor Robinson. Any plane crashes in your yard or?
My county, but not my yard.
Okay.
No, I was really sad to see that.
Yeah.
Just want to thank Emily again for all your hard work. We wish you well. You'll be missed. Good luck to you. And also just as a reminder, as a past business owner for over 2 decades, there's a link between health and business. And it's a substantial link. It's a delicate balance that we've achieved here. And so I just want to make that reminder when I look at all the boards and everything in my county, mainly made up of business people, all right, that donate their time. And sometimes that's not acknowledged. So to Manuel and Kevin and all those out there that have been working on this for years, delicate balance. I really hope we don't give it back. People always ask about Air Board, and I always say that, Air Board works at the speed that business can afford. So we've accomplished a lot in the last, whatever it's been, 45 years. I just don't want to give it back. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
I just wanted to acknowledge to Samir and to all of his staff the wonderful job that you do for San Joaquin Valley and for the large communities as well as the small. I know I come from a small community, and sometimes community members need to put a little bit of pressure on their locals to advance information to them so that they are more aware of what's offered and what's available to them. I know our fire chief puts out regularly current watches on fires that are going on, red flag issues, anything that's happening statewide so that we're aware of it as well as locally. So with that being said, I just wanted to thank our staff for the excellent job that you do to get information out. We're not the end all to everything. Local government has to be involved, and that's where it needs to start, is at local government and the county as well. So again, thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I too wanted to wish Emily, wish you well on your new endeavors. Thank you again for the service. Thank you again, Samir, for the presentation and your staff. There was a comment earlier regarding interpretation, right? When it comes to either language, but we at the council utilize Wordly, a software that's powered by AI that helps interpret well over 25 different languages. It's very simple. You scan it and it either reads it to you out loud, or you can listen to it, read with it. That's something that I would suggest to this board to see if that's something they want to explore. For us, it certainly took a lot of the headaches of trying to find interpreters at times when you have heavily visited public meetings. So something to consider. Also, I want to report on the efforts that we had at the Madera District Fair. This happened on July 12th. Thank you again, Samir, for allowing me to meet up with Valley Can with their Tune In and Tune Up. I thought this program was a testament to putting our funding and resources to work to reduce emissions, especially in the most vulnerable populations. I witnessed lines of vehicles waiting for an opportunity to address smog and the type of issues that many put a financial burden on many. So thank you again. These programs do work in talking to people, especially the coordinators. Thanks to Jose and Veronica that were there. They made themselves available to introduce me to their staff, but more importantly, just to see how these dollars, how far out they go to reach these vulnerable communities. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the lady, Ms. Lopez. Thank you again for bringing that, bringing it to the heart of what we really stand for as a public agency. I do believe that our mission core should be centered around public health. More importantly, with their quality. We must find that delicate balance where collaborative efforts are welcomed by private, public, and nonprofit organizations to move the needle in enhancing air quality. And to Mr. Robinson's point, I think it's important again to look at business, because we are a economic driven nation, and that's what incentivizes people to want to move forward. With that, you have opportunities and to create the social aspect of it, that, hey, we should be more conscientious about environmental justice, right? So that's what brings it. It's the economic driven motivation that puts us at this point. But more importantly, I think, again, we're doing great initiatives with all businesses, whether small, ag, and what have you. So I hope that we continue that and we continue to move that needle. Again, Mr. Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for your comments. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to mention it. Sorry, I didn't do that earlier. Just a big congratulations to Ryan's team, because at the last CAR board meeting, where we had our AB 617 progress report, so many of the innovations that have come out of the district were highlighted. And I just think that this district has really been key to the success of that program statewide. And certainly, you know, when I was confirmed in CARB and talking to our state representatives, they were so concerned about the link to, the numbers to the program. And through your team's work, it's just so very clear how the efforts are yielding progress. So I really want to thank your team for that. Another thing I wanted to let folks know about tomorrow, the Fresno County Rural Transit Agency is doing their ribbon cutting ceremony for their maintenance facility. And I bring that up just because I do feel like that is such a testament to how folks in the Valley are really stepping up to all the challenges that are brought before them. And they've done things around challenges around electrification, have approached them with innovation, combination, microgrid, things like that, I really do feel like there are things happening in the Valley where people are really stepping up and doing things that aren't being done anywhere else in the state. And then lastly, thank you so much, Emily, for all that you've done and really how you've tried to help everyone at the state level also understand a lot of the efforts that have gone on here. And I, for those of you that don't know, there was a time last year where there were daily, weekly, if not daily, very intense meetings that Emily was a part of, representing us. And I just don't think that we would have gotten to where we did without you. So thank you so much. And somebody else better have cat pictures to show me now that Emily's not going to be here, because that's why I come to these meetings.
Don't count on it here. Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to circle back to say, Emily, thank you for your 6.5 years of service to this organization. You will be well missed. And I'm sure Samir is going to find someone that can try to fill your shoes. I'm happy that Dr. Pacheco Warner expressed some of the involvement that you had in this organization and the empowerment that you brought to us with your services. So thank you again, and I wish you the best in your new endeavors and moving over the hill to the coastal area. Take care.
Where they have wildfires.
Oh my God.
Okay, I don't see any more comments. Council, we have agendized for closed session.
Yes, we have item 16, closed session item. We have 2 existing litigation items to discuss and a potential anticipated litigation item, and we do need to call for public comment on those items.
Okay. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments on the closed session items?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments on the closed session items?
No public comment in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on the closed session items? Seeing none and none online.
So
Okay,
sorry. Yes. We will proceed to closed session and then we will adjourn the meeting out of closed session.
Out of closed session. And one more reminder, we will be dark in September, right? September, and we will see you back in, well, not here, in October. Meeting adjourned.
No.
Meeting back in session. Go into closed session. Sorry.